The podcast on Haunted Hill will contain spoilers and swearing.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
Think some of this, Michael. Be one of us.
I didn't tell you my name.
Hang up.
I didn't tell them my name.
They're all part of it. They're all parts of
It is time to keep your appointment.
What?
Been out of your room.
No, I haven't.
Oh. A little ceramic penguin in the study always faces due south.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a penguin.
What you're looking for? I know you've been out twice, Paul. First I couldn't figure out how you did it. But last night, found your key. I know I left my scrapbook out. I can imagine what you might be thinking of me. But you see, Paul, it's all okay. Last night it came so clear. I realize you just need more time. Eventually you'll come to accept the idea of being here. Paul, do you know about the early days at the Kimberley Diamond Mines? You know what they did to the native workers who stole diamonds? Don't worry, they didn't kill them. That would be like junking your Mercedes just because it had a broken spring. No, if they caught them, they had to make sure they could go on working. But they also had to make sure they could never run away. The operation was called hobbling.
Amy, whatever you think I'm not doing, please don't do it. Amy, for God,
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
Amy, please.
Almost done.
Hello and welcome to the podcast on Haunted Hill, episode 88. That's 12 away from 100. Just
Love your
giving
maths,
you some.
Gavin.
Well, this is our new workings for the show. We're going to do more maths equations rather than film reviews. Let us know what you think about that. Dan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Gav?
I'm still in isolation, but yes, good.
So am I. But do you know what it is?
What?
It's my birthday episode.
It's your birthday. I'm not going to sing. Happy birthday to you.
Thank
it's
you
a little
very
bit
much.
delayed.
It is a bit delayed, but whatever, man.
Considering in isolation we're sitting around with our thumbs up, not each other's bottoms, up our own bottoms, sitting around doing nothing, we actually still didn't get time to record and we're behind schedule. We've still got to do our Easter episode.
But it's all coming, don't you worry, listeners.
It's not the first year we've
coming.
done this, is it? If you're a listener of longevity, you would know this is what is going on. We're actually looking at each other today, Dan. I see we've got videos on the old Skype.
We have. Well, I don't mind looking at your beautiful face while we do this, Gavin.
Beards. I see your beard's getting a lot more werewolfy.
Yeah, that's right. That is it.
I feel like we're in a studio looking at each other over a desk, you know.
Through the glass.
Yeah, through the glass.
You just asked me to
the,
do just one more take.
The pandemic glass to stop the virus.
Or we could be in a prison and I'm visiting you in prison.
What happened to old Weinstein? Don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, if he had it, he would have gone over it by now. Because that was, I don't know. Time seems to have stopped, doesn't it?
Well, he's on the ultimate lockdown, isn't he? So he's definitely not going out anytime soon.
No. But I just want to know if he still had the virus. But I did say about I hope he gets it, and he got it. So I got my wishes for something horrible for a human being, which is a weird thing to.
Well, talking of wishes, and I'm good at segues. It's my birthday, so it's my birthday wishes. So shall I tell everybody what we're going to be talking about for this episode?
Yes, please.
Fantastic. So I've picked two films that I really love, and they're both novelizations. Well, not novelizations, sorry. They're books originally written by Stephen King, turned into films. Both happen to be directed by Rob Reiner. Yes, of course, we are talking about Stand By Me and Misery.
An
which
interesting
is-
pairing, because obviously it's both the director and the novelist writer. That's quite interesting that you got them. Both the films are.
And
know.
well, the reason I've been wanting to do this for a while is obviously both fantastic films. Although Stand By Me, probably not horror, but whatever, it's Stephen King. But they're also directed by Rob Reiner, who you guys may or may not know directed The Princess Bride, which is my favourite film of all time. And I know that's not horror, but it is my favourite movie of all time, and he did direct that.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Rob Reiner, so it's fun to talk about his movies. He's got a relatively unique style. He works well with Stephen King. In fact, Stephen King really, really only wanted him to... I think it was Stephen King, that said, I only want Rob Reiner to direct Misery, because he liked his work on Stand By Me so much. So, when you get the Stephen King approval...
Interesting though, because obviously if he had said, oh, I want him to do the It film because he did Stand By Me, you could go, oh yeah, because that makes obviously
that would have worked, of course, yeah.
Yeah, but interesting that he would say Misery, which is okay to adults in isolation. It's not a group of youngsters in the wilderness, so that's completely different contrast. But he must have seen something there. I don't see it in an exact style. I wouldn't look at a Rob Reiner film and say, oh, that's a Rob Reiner film. But he makes solid films, hence why we are covering them, and Dan's chosen them for his birthday episode.
He has. That's me. I talk about myself in the third then.
Fucking hell.
I'm getting old now. My birthday, because I know you're dying to know what I did for my lockdown birthday.
Dan, please, I'm dying to know what you did for your lockdown birthday. What did you do?
Well, my birthday was on Easter Sunday this year. So in the UK, and I'm sure in most countries...
Did you resurrect yourself?
Easter. I did. I buried myself and then resurrected. I erected
yourself. Oh, I knew. We both went there.
So what did I do? So basically, I had a nice long 4-day weekend, and my darling wife very kindly, because I think she was probably planning on doing something a bit more out of the house, but what she did do is threw a big Easter party for just me and her, with lots of sweets and cakes and beers and wines. And I was very lucky that the weekend was really, really hot and sunny. So we sat in the garden drinking and playing card games, listening to music. And I listened to some records that my good friend Gavin Hoare gave me. He gave me some hip hop records, so that's fantastic. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a very low key birthday because it had to be, because it's fucking lockdown.
Yeah. How were the records? Anything all right?
Yeah, I haven't got through all of them, of course, because you gave me probably about 50. I'd say.
Is there some shit ones?
I haven't had a chance really to find a shit one. They've all got brilliant cover art. When any 80s record, any 80s hip hop record from the on a vinyl, the artwork is always going to be somebody wearing fantastically huge gold chains and really bright neon clothing. So most of them look like that, and they're fantastic. There's some good British hip hop in there as well, so I'm excited to work on it.
I just have too much, and at some point very soon in the near future I need to move abodes and downsizing, something to do, and if I don't listen to the record at home, or I don't DJ it out, or I'm not going to use it for some sort of mixtape or need it for something in the future, someone else may as well have it and listen to it. I don't have the time to listen to them, so it's just passing on, really, isn't it? Quite often I have people pass records on to me. In the past I've had people pass on the huge amounts from their collection, just given to me for free. So I don't mind passing vinyl on, my friend.
Sharing the love.
Sharing and caring in the community. Caring in the community with Daniel. That's your new podcast, isn't it?
That is my new podcast, coming soon.
What do you talk about?
What have you been up to?
What do you talk about?
I talk about the community and how much I care for it, nothing else.
Okay. What have I been up to? I have just binged season 3 of Twin Peaks. Have you seen it?
I have not. The new season, I'm very, very behind.
I'm literally drinking coffee as you talk to me.
Have you got any apple pie to go with that black coffee?
Dude, come on, man. It's cherry pie.
Oh, sit, sorry. The reason I haven't watched it is because it's been about 10 years since I watched Twin Peaks, and I'd like to revisit
it. I did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for it to get a bit more wintry, a bit more autumnal.
Do you want to borrow the DVDs?
Oh, have you got DVD?
I've got season 1, 2, and 3 on DVD.
Oh, dude. Yes, please.
And you get the Log Lady intros as well.
I've got those because I've got series 1 and 2 with the Log Lady intros. Go
for them again. Watch them again.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do, and then I will start 3. But please tell me your thoughts on season 3.
Season 3 was really, really good. It's kind of like when you started watching Twin Peaks, you always just wanted all that weird stuff, and it always got towards the end of it. You got the backwards dwarf and the lodge and the room and all the music and the jazz, and you just wanted more weirdness with Twin Peaks. And season 2 was more weirder, but the storyline was a little bit all over the place. It goes off and you're like, where's James going now? What's going on?
Yeah.
So season 3 is what you wanted, and you basically get David Lynch going full, I'm fucking out there. I've fucking smoked a few joints and I'm fucking out there, guys. And some one episode is just it's one episode is just fucking bonkers. It's just loads of just visuals and shit, and I'm like, what am I watching?
Well, that
for
was
ages.
the worry. I think the worry was when they announced that and when it came out, everybody, because most people who, particularly us guys, everybody in the Legion network, anybody who listens and likes horror, is a fan of Twin Peaks. And I think the worry was when they announced that and when it came out, is it going to be a bit too, when these things come out years after, when they release a sequel. But from what you're telling me, from what everybody is telling me, it's fantastic.
I'd give it 9.5.
Whoa.
I think it's amazing. I'm so happy I have it on DVD.
I love the way Twin Peaks makes me feel, because I first discovered Twin Peaks when I was about 12 or 13.
It's the whole town vibe. You get to and that's what I really liked Bates Motel. It felt like that with the village, the sort of forestry, surroundings.
Yeah, the town around.
Yeah. And but this is just there. But this season is just incredible, and it has all the people coming back again. So you've seen everyone. You've seen Ray Wise here and there, and you've seen.
Oh, I love Ray.
Laura Palmer. I'm not going to go into anything, but it's just a very, very, very good. Yeah, and some bits in it. David Lynch is in it again as the FBI agent, and he's fucking hilarious being a deaf old FBI agent. And he says this one joke to. He says, I told her that some woman's child's gone missing and she owns something. I can't remember what it was. And he says, I said to her, and he says a joke involving this woman's farm or whatever it is, and about the kid coming back. And it was so like, oh, you shouldn't have said that, but it's so funny. And there's just at times in the whole episode, there'd just be these glimpses of absolute brilliant humour, but it's just so little, it makes it more. It's so good.
I think people don't, if you don't really, really know David Lynch, you don't get that he has actually got a really wicked sense of humour buried under all the weird, bizarre visuals. He's very sharp with that kind of stuff, but it's whether you get it or not. And it doesn't matter if you don't. I like his movies. I don't always get them, but I'm a fan, and I will be definitely checking out season 3 of Twin Peaks with your
you've got to binge it though. I think if you leave a few days and not watch it, you're like, what the fuck? What's happening?
Nice.
It's really good. The DVD actually has some extras, which special features, which are just basically someone's just been filming David Lynch talking to the actors when come back, and they're just sitting there, and the camera doesn't move, and it's not like it's cut lots. It just sits there while they try and work out the character's motivation and all sorts of stuff. You sit there going, I'm watching a masterclass with David Lynch here, teaching you how to direct. This is amazing.
Nice.
It's like, wow. And the camera just sits there. And they're
cool,
just pondering the character while they smoke cigarettes. It just sits there for like 10 minutes at a time. It's like, oh, fucking amazing. Yeah, it's really good. Really well worth watching. And for isolation, absolutely.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, I checked out a really, really good film which came out last year, which was, I've seen people talking about it, and it wasn't until it was recommended by our good friend RJ McCready, who does his podcast Bite Size Cinema, and also Dude Looks Like the 80s. So thanks for the recommendation. Do check out his podcasts. And this is a movie called VFW. That's Victor Foxtrot Whiskey.
I've seen that as well.
Oh, fantastic. So it stands for Veterans of Foreign War, and it's directed by Joe Bagos, who directed Bliss, which is also getting a lot of praise, which I've not seen yet. And it stars some real old school faces, doesn't it, Gav? It's got Stephen Lang, William Sadler, Fred Williamson, the guy from The Karate Kid is in it, the referee. The Cobra Kai instructor, sorry. And George Wendt from Cheers. And it's just a load of old war veterans who sit in this bar owned by Stephen Lang, and one night it kind of goes a bit John Carpenter Assault on Precinct 13, because all of a sudden this crazy gang, and there's no reason for it, we don't know when this is really even set, but it seems slightly futuristic, but this crazy gang just breaks in and they have to have this sort of there's like an assault on Precinct 13 situation, basically, isn't it, Gav? You've seen it. I didn't realise you'd seen it. It's a fucking great film. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it was quite nice to see some of these faces again. Some of them, William Sadler's looking pretty older now, isn't he?
Yeah.
It was quite nice in this, and it's all right. I got to admit, I was actually pretty disappointed by the film.
Really?
I felt that their camaraderie was not there at all with these guys. They didn't seem like guys who had been buddies sitting at that bar for a long time. It was just off. It didn't feel like it. The pieces were there, but they didn't fit in perfectly, and that's how I felt. But I enjoyed the film. I watched it and enjoyed it, but I felt nothing new with it. Yeah, I know you could say John Carpenter.
Yeah.
But I only feel that really just because of some bright colours and the music tone. That's all. Nothing else in the sense that John Carpenter can bring that feeling there better in, say, Assault or The Thing with groups of people in isolation. Unfortunately,
worth checking out, though.
I think it's worth checking out. I just was a little bit disappointed. So I'm really sorry because I knew you were hyped on it.
No, it's cool, man. I think if you're a Carpenter fan, guys, listeners, if you're a Carpenter fan and you haven't seen VFW, I'd highly recommend checking it out. Maybe I see what you mean. It did feel like their camaraderie was kind of forced a little bit.
But it was a enjoyable grindhousey 70s sort of throwback film.
It had a real grindhouse feel to it.
Sorry, my throat's got all...
You've gone all husky there. I also watched a couple more of my favourite shark exploitation movies, Gav.
You
know, I love watching these shark
them, don't you?
I watched... so I didn't realise there were so many of these. So I'd seen Two-Headed Shark Attack, and I'd seen Five-Headed Shark Attack. There's also a Three-Headed Shark Attack, which I haven't seen yet. I must check that out at some point.
So you're saying there's 2, 3 and 5, but there's not a 4?
There isn't a 4, I don't think, no.
But why have they skipped 4? What's wrong with 4?
I don't know, but I watched Six-Headed Shark Attack, and it is exactly what you think it's going to be. Terrible.
Is there a One-Headed Shark Attack, obviously, yeah, the first one?
No, there isn't one of those. Why would you have that?
Well, I don't know, One-Headed Shark. I'm trying to work it out. It's nothing, it's just a shark then, isn't it?
It's just a shark, yeah.
So we've got that, it's Jaws.
But the only reason I can sell you the Six-Headed Shark...
My brain completely froze then, by the way. I couldn't work out what was going on.
I thought our internet connection had frozen, but it was you. So, Six-Headed Shark Attack, the shark uses 4 of the heads as legs, and the other 2 heads are facing forward, so he can come onto the land as well.
Oh my god.
It's fucking terrible. But I also watched another movie called Empire of the Sharks, which is set in the future, and it's basically Waterworld, but with loads of really bad CGI sharks.
Is this where your isolation's got you?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I've got 2 movies lined up next to watch. Santa Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Shark are the next 2.
Santa Jaws?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And Raiders of the Lost Shark.
Well, that should be a Christmas movie we cover at least.
Maybe I'll let you know if it's worth it.
I watched a couple other films as well. I watched a movie called Primal with Nicolas Cage. It's just out for rent.
Oh wow! Right.
I quite enjoyed it. He's an animal game collector, and he sells animals. He collects hunts in the jungle, and he goes on a boat to take him across to land. But the FBI are on the boat with a criminal, and the criminal breaks out. And some of his animals get let out, and it's a bit of an Under Siege. It's an Under Siege movie.
I just found it. Here's the synopsis. Frank's caught wildlife in the Brazilian jungle, including a 400-pound white jaguar. He ships it on the same boat as an arrested assassin, but the assassin breaks free and frees the animals.
Yeah, that's it. It's Under Siege with Nicolas Cage and tigers.
You've lured me in there with that sentence. It's Under Siege, but with Nicolas Cage.
With tigers. And he's only out for himself and his money.
Oh, Gotta catch these tires.
I
These
really,
Jaguars have escaped.
I really enjoyed it. Actually, I quite enjoyed it. I also watched Colour Out of Space with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I really want to see it.
Well,
Tell me.
You can rent it now. It's out. Yeah, it's a weird one because it's a very, very good film. But when you come away from it, I felt like I wanted to see, and the story, I feel like it sort of would naturally go away. But because of this is Richard Stanley, it really goes somewhere. So it's good. It's a really, really good film. The colours in it, they used a different colour in it, which is between purple and pink. And it was. I don't know what to tell you really without saying anything. I don't want to spoil it. It's a lovely atmosphere. It's like basically Nicolas Cage with his missus and his kids, and they've decided to get out of the city and move to the country, and then just shit starts happening, and a meteorite comes down from space, and just things start to go on, and he's trying to grow stuff. Then he's got alpacas, and just. Yeah, Nicolas Cage is an alpaca farmer, and he's a city slicker who's now turned an alpaca farmer. And then this meteorite comes down, and just these colours come out. You've got Chong, who lives in the woods, smoking weed, and in a caravan. Yes. And he's like 90 odd now, and he still looks quite good. He's quite buff and stuff still. It's a really good film. I don't know what to tell you. I think just go and watch it. If you're a horror fan, just go and watch it. Well, only in it was produced by the same company, Spectrovision, which is Elijah Wood's company. It's just really well produced movie. It has comparing to Mandy, you can't really sort of compare. It's a totally different story. It's some bright colours to it, but it's a totally different thing. It's a great movie. Just go watch it.
Talking of Elijah Wood, you've just reminded me of something else which I watched. I had a few days off. Just to take a break from everything, not that we can go out or anything like that right now, and I did sit and watch the entire series of Eli Roth's History of Horror. Have you had a chance to watch that?
Yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I really enjoyed it, and it's changed my opinion on Eli Roth. And I was talking to Jamie recently. We appeared on Jamie's show recently, and we were chatting off air, and we were saying he gets a bad rap, and yes, he's made some shit movies, but I think he's just an excitable fan of horror, really.
Yeah, he's an absolute fan of horror.
In general.
He's an absolute fan of horror, but everybody thought he was going to do something. I was just so like, who is this dude? What's he going to do? Kind of a bit like Rob Zombie. Yeah. And he did Hostel, which I thought, it's amazing. That's a great follow-up film. Really good. Almost opening up a subgenre of that with Saw, obviously, for the torture porn. But then it just kind of went, and then he sort of kind of produced some bits and bobs and some other stuff and things. But
this documentary is great because he's got a lot of connections, and he's pulled together some fantastic people. Tarantino's great hearing him talking about films like Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist. Covers lots of different genres in each of the 7 episodes. So I highly recommend anyone that hasn't seen Eli Roth's History of Horror. Sorry, Gab, what were you saying?
Well, I was going to say, I was thinking of actually letting Jay hear this, watch that documentary, The History of Horror. I don't know, would it be a bit too much for her? It might be.
I think it's a good introduction. They show, it's really strange because it's AMC that do The Walking Dead, so they show loads of gore and violence, but anytime anyone swears, they bleep it out, which is really strange.
Americans don't like rude words, I think, isn't it?
It's strange, but
then again, maybe not. England, it definitely didn't back in the day. Anyway, I also introduced Jay to The Wicker Man.
Yeah.
And we actually recorded her thoughts. Should I play that later on?
Oh, let's hear a bit of Ask Jay.
It's have to be Ask Jay now because it's gender neutral, and she's 13 on Monday. So
tomorrow. Well, whenever we're recording.
Or at some point she was 13.
Yes.
Should we get on with the episode?
The Wicker Man. Well, before we do, very quickly, Gab, a subject close to your heart. During my days off, I always managed to catch up on boobs. No, I managed to catch up on 2 Critters-related pieces of new media. I watched Critters Attack, the new reboot with Dee Wallace. Do you know anything about this?
No.
It came out last year. I never trust a film with an exclamation mark in its title. And I was right, because it is really not very good. It's It's kind of a reboot, but they try and follow it on a little bit from Critters 4.
Would I be displeased if you made me watch it?
I think you might, yeah. But I also then watched the Shudder exclusive Critters: A New Binge.
What's that TV show?
Yeah, it's a TV show. It's 8 episodes, so they're about 10 minutes each. Not even that. Some of them are like 9 minutes. Really easy to watch. Excuse me. And actually, that was actually a lot of fun. That was very silly. There were some good fun kids characters in it. It was kind of like Stranger Things with critters.
That's quite funny. I remember, I don't have Shudder anymore, but I did have it. And when I had it, there was a TV show thing on there about a dude with a record, vinyl. It's on there. That was quite interesting. That was very small episodes of 15 minutes or 18 minutes each episode. And I quite liked that size for episodes. I thought that's actually quite good. And really, when it comes down to it, you're only shooting them out the length of one feature film if you're making them that short. So that's quite a good idea.
There is something nice about those 20-minute, like Friends style 20-minute.
Yeah. That should be more of a thing. Maybe we should do a horror version of Friends.
That's kind of why I liked that what was it called? Santa Clarita Diet, that zombie one with
I wasn't really into that.
Well, I liked it because they were only about 20 minutes each, and it was really easy to digest. You could watch 2 or 3, put it down, or you could watch like a couple of hours worth. And that's what I liked with this Critters. They were only about 8 minutes each. I watched 1 or 2. I'd walk away for a bit. Maybe I'd come back and watch 3 or 4 more. I watched all 8 episodes in a day. It was really easy to do, obviously, being 8 minutes each. I would recommend it if anyone hasn't seen that. It is fun. You're not going to get a lot out of it, but the effects are funny, the critters are funny, and the kids are funny. And it's funny, is what I'm saying, Cav.
You are.
It's funny. Right. It's my birthday. It's time to stand by me, Gav. Are you going to stand by me?
Always, man. I got your back.
Thank you. Shall we go into this then?
Let's do this. Let's go.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Maddie.
Do you like horror movies?
I sure do.
Well, did you know that most horror movies are inspired by real-life horror?
Really? Like what?
Well, take The Shining, for instance. That's based on Stephen King's real-life addictions, or The Purge, which could be our country any minute now.
Oh, and The Strangers, which is based on a real-life murder. People should be talking about these things.
Hey, guys.
Oh, hey, Producer Michael.
Hi.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but somebody already is. It's you.
That's right. We are Friday the 13th, the podcast where we talk about horror in real life and horror in media, all from an LGBTQ perspective.
Because we gay, y'all.
We are proud members of the Legion Podcast Network, and we can be found on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever your favorite podcasts are found.
And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Come along with us on this crazy journey, and as always,
get slayed.
In all our lives, there's a fall from innocence. A time after which we are never the same. It happened in the summer of 1959. A long time ago. But only if you measure it in terms of years.
You guys want to go see a dead body? I bet you anything that if we find him, we'll get our pictures in the paper. Yeah, we can even be on TV. Sure, we'll be heroes. Yeah. Just supposing that I told the story. Do you think that anyone would have believed it? This is really a good time. It must be a blast.
Okay, so Stand By Me from 1986. After the death of one of his friends, a writer recounts a boyhood journey with his friends to find the body of a missing boy. directed by Rob Reiner, and it's, as I've said earlier, it's written by Stephen King originally. It's got a great little cast in this. We've got Will Wheaton. People might know him from Star Trek and a few other bits and bobs. Obviously, the late, great River Phoenix. The fantastic icon that is Corey, I Want to Be Michael Jackson Feldman. Jerry O'Connell, before he lost all, became a bit of a hunk in the Scream movies, and then ended up dating a Spice Girl for a while, which is strange.
Which one?
And of course, Jerry. So Jerry was dating
Ginger.
Jerry. Yeah.
Everyone dated Ginger. Eddie Murphy's got a kid, hasn't he, with
the scary one.
Scaries, but why is she scary? Because she had an afro.
She had big hair and she shouted a lot, I think. She's from Leeds. It's quite a scary place. Sorry to anyone from Leeds listening. We would also be remiss to not mention fucking fantastic in this, Kiefer Sutherland, scary bastard in this. And also Richard Dreyfuss pops up a couple of times as the grown-up version of the character narrating the story.
Indeed. I used to love this movie as a kid. It was like, at school, this was the movie we all watched and talked about, and it's really cool. Like, I watched that movie, and that was when we were like 14, I guess, 13, 14.
100%. Same here. I was about 13. A friend of mine, Scott, said, come over to my place. We watch RoboCop every weekend, but one weekend we decided we would watch this movie, which I'd never seen. And it blew me away. I really connected to the friendships and the characters in it. And also, I felt kind of a bit moved at the end. And it was one of the first movies that I sort of thought, oh my God, that's kind of quite, I get it. I get what they're doing with this. So it became my kind of, like you said, Gav, my one to watch and talk about at school.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but that would have digested in my mental state, my mind as well. When I actually came to sort of think about it, without realising, and only now you saying that, I must have done that. Yeah, absolutely.
As I said, it's directed by Rob Reiner, another person that he's directed some great movies.
I let Jay watch this a couple of years ago. It's a good way for a younger person to appreciate the craft of a good story, giving you the emotional roller coaster, isn't it?
Yes, because it's from a very short story called The Body, which Stephen King wrote, which has been fleshed out into a movie. And it doesn't overstay its welcome, because it's only, it's not even an hour and a half. It's just under an hour and a half. So you're not sort of looking at your watch halfway through it. It's really, really good. And there's lots to talk about. It's very funny. It's very moving. And it's a really, like said Gab, it's a really good example of storytelling, which obviously Stephen King is known for. And it does tell this really great story with these really real feeling characters who just have this real friendship. It feels like real friendship they've got between them.
Well, it helps having this narration over the top and popping in at times as well. It's really like, it has this, like, it's what Stephen King does with his towns, and just bringing all the people together, and that feeling, the whole thing just feels so nice and snug, doesn't it? It's like you go on an adventure with the kids.
You do, and I actually tried to recreate this once when I was about the same sort of 13,
What were you
14.
looking for, though? Well,
we weren't really looking for a body, but we weren't even camping out. But there is a railway track near our old school.
Oh dear! Children, if you're listening, please do not recreate anything Dan says.
It's a closed railway track, but you could still walk over it. And there was always a rumour that occasionally a train might come along, but in all the years, you've never seen a train along there. But we would often just walk along there with our backpacks on and drinks and food, and just I think we were hoping
the
something
Bristol
exciting
version
would
of
happen.
Stand By Me.
Nothing exciting ever
Stand
happened.
by me.
The most exciting thing that ever happened was we saw an old man with a dog, and the
Having
dog
a wank.
No, the dog attacked a rat, and then he walked off, and the rat was lying there, sort of shaking with all its guts hanging out.
Shit.
My friends looked at me, and I looked at them, and for some reason, I just became the one that had to do it. So I picked up a really heavy bit of brick, and I just shut my eyes and dropped it on the rat to put it out of its misery. And I felt really instantly like a bit of a quite manly, you know what I mean? I've put a creature out of its misery.
How old were you?
It's about 13 or 14.
Sweet man.
Yeah. I was like, I'll do it, boys. Let me do it. It was gross. But there we go. Well, let's get into the story here.
Let's do it.
Enough of my rat killing days. They're over now.
It starts with that classic song, what point? It must have been when this movie came out. That must have been when we were all at school going, did you see it? Because in the charts, when we had them, this became up there, didn't it, in the charts?
Yeah.
Benny King, Stand By Me.
And there's, I may be mistaken, but it sounds like the score at times is versions of that, because it's a very slowed down orchestral version of that.
Is the novel called Stand By Me?
No, the original story is called The Body.
So that's an interesting take on it, to do that and then incorporate this song, which works lovely.
It does work really well. I think they had a few names that were bouncing around for it, but ultimately they decided that Stand By Me would be better, because I think they thought The Body
the body doesn't
like
it doesn't have appeal for the public, does it?
Well, they were worried it would sound like a porn, or something like that, like those movies Madonna was making in the late 80s or something, or Sharon Stone. So they thought, let's just call it Stand By Me, it sounds better. And also, ultimately, the kids are all standing up for each other and standing with each other in this adventure, so it does make sense.
And that's mid 90s, not late 80s.
Yeah, the score alone is really moving, probably because I've got a lot of connection to this movie. These kids are 12 years old, and it's summer 1959 in a castle, in a place called Castle Rock.
In a castle.
Castle Rock comes up quite a lot in Stephen King books and stories. I won't go into that now, but that is something that does come up a lot. And you're right, Gab, it's narrated by Gordy, who is in this played by Will Wheaton. And Gordy is a grown-up at the beginning, and he sort of starts telling the story about that summer of 1959, and that's when it kind of takes us back quite naturally to that. And they recreate, not that I was there, obviously without the time machine, they recreate the 50s really well. These kids are all dressed like that, they're all quite innocent.
It sets up the sort of classic town and era, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they've got a tree house. Oh, they've got a brilliant little tree house. It reminds me of the Monster Squad, this little tree house.
It's quite nice going back to this nowadays, because you think, you look at my kids and that nowadays. Imagine some kids doing this now. They'd be WhatsApping everything and Instagram and going live the whole time.
But
and
instead,
it'd just be shit.
Well, instead, these kids are smoking cigarettes, playing cards, swearing, all the things we used to do when we were 12.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
That because we thought, the parents aren't around, we're going to be really cool.
Well, later on, a gun comes into play, but we'll get to that.
Indeed. So, the characters in this, we've got Gordy, we've got Chris Chambers, who's River Phoenix, and Teddy Duchamp, played by Corey Feldman, and they're the guys who are in the treehouse, and they're playing some kind of gambling game, and they're all, like I said, they're swearing, they're smoking, they're telling really dirty jokes.
It's like the beginning of the Goonies, showing them all just mucking around and stuff. And because we even have a Goonie in here, don't we? So
we do. And they're saying horrible things about each other's mums as well. Corey Feldman is phenomenal in this. I mean, they're all great, but there's a few lines that Corey Feldman's got, like when they call him when they think he's lied, and he said, "You lying piece of shit." What about when he's doing the card game?
He had some movies where he had some greatest parts and said the greatest lines and was the coolest dude, didn't he?
Well, he's wearing this amazing Hawaiian shirt in this scene, and they call him a lying piece of shit, and he says, "A piece of shit has 1,000 eyes."
He's in Goonies, Gremlins, Lost Boys, Stand By Me. It's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, and don't forget, he was in a couple of Friday the 13th as well.
Yeah.
He was knocking him out of the park, this guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're playing cards, and suddenly there's a knock on the treehouse trapdoor, and they all shout, "That's not the secret knock!" And this is kind of our chunk from the Goonies character. This is Vern. So as soon as they sort of say, he says, "Let me in, guys, it's Vern," they all sort of go, "Oh, Vern," and they let him in, and he's got a story. He says, "Do you want to hear something?" And they're like, "Yeah, go on then. What is it?" And basically he says, "Do you guys want to go and see a dead body?" And
that's that classic line, isn't it? And then obviously that's in "Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood." At the beginning of they did the same thing. And it's this dude bent over, his pants and trousers down.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I watched that film for years. Yeah. I think it's on Netflix now.
Yeah.
So he tells them this story that he was under his parents' house, because he'd lost his jar of pennies.
He lost his jar of pennies, so he's under his house looking for it. Then his older brother's bit of a rebellion comes along with his mate, and they're talking, and he overhears something.
Yeah, because they're in a gang. His older brother is in a gang with Kiefer Sutherland and a bunch of other nasty people that you wouldn't want to mess with. Really. They
drive down the street, hitting post boxes with baseball bats. That sort of youngsters.
And he overhears them talking about Ray Browers, who'd gone missing and was apparently hit by a train, and they'd gone fishing and they'd seen the body, or they think they'd seen the body. So they were building up the courage to talk to Ace, the leader of their gang, who is Kiefer Sutherland, so that they could all go and say, oh, we found the body, let's get a reward for it. So Vern tells his little gang about this, and they all decide what they're going to do about it. Do we go and find this body? What should we do? What should we do? Yes, we could get our pictures in the paper. We could be on TV. Now, we should mention there's a bit of a backstory with Gordy, Will Wheaton, who lost his brother, Dennis, or Denny, who was played by John Cusack. He's got a little cameo in this, hasn't he? And it's very sad. His brother was killed last year in a Jeep accident, and his parents just act like Gordy isn't there anymore.
Yeah, he was a local hero. Track and field. No, was he baseball? Was he American football?
Well, he was just cool at everything, I think, wasn't he?
His younger brother was in the shadows, and yeah.
So they do decide, we're going to go find this body. We're going to become famous, or at least get some kind of reward. So that's cool. There we go. So they decide they're all going to tell our parents they're all staying over other different houses. We've all done that as well. That's another little... That's why this feels so real, because these are all things we've all done. You tell your parents you're staying at my house, but I'll tell them I'm staying at his house, and then you're staying, and then the 3 or 4 of you would stay over somebody else's house.
I don't remember consciously doing it, but I must have done it, you know.
You just did it. You just worked around the rules, didn't you, as a kid? So the next day, Chris and Gordy meet up, and they're having a chat, and Chris says, this is River Phoenix, I've got something to show you. Come down this alleyway. And he's got a gun. And they start mucking around with it, and he says, it's not loaded, is it? He says, oh, yeah, I put a few bullets in it. And then he shoots it, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it goes off. Yeah, and they go, whoa, and they run off.
But he stole that from my I stole it from my old man.
How insane is that, though, that they can just get a gun?
He just steals it because his dad was drunk.
It's still insane for us, especially like in England, because you barely ever see a gun. No. So it's just like, really, even seeing a kid with a gun, it's a bit like, oh, it's still shocking. Oh my god, you know.
So they run off, but as they run off, they do bump into Kiefer Sutherland's character Ace and Eyeball. Great name for
was that his name? What his mate's name? Was it Eyeball?
Eyeball. And they sort of pick on the kids a bit. They end up stealing Gordy's cap, which was a present that John Cusack gave to him, and really meant a lot to him. And he steals it, and they kind of he sort of pushes him on the floor and tries to burn him with a cigarette. And eventually they sort of keep the baseball cap and they walk off laughing at these two kids. And they're upset, but they're like, don't worry about it. Don't worry. They're just dickheads. We don't need to worry about them. So that's a bit sad. So they're definitely like not cool kids. They're all a bit unique, and they're all getting bullied. And they've all got backstories. River Phoenix is, as I've said, his dad's always drunk. He beats him up a lot, as does Corey Feldman's dad. In fact, Corey Feldman's got a terribly burnt ear from where his dad pushed his ear onto the stove once. And
not parents of the year in this film.
No, definitely
we never
not.
get to. Which is the fun thing is though, we never get to see them. We never see the parents.
No, they're just like these. Well,
Wills.
Gordy's, yeah, in flashbacks, but that's it.
But that's it. But really, we don't see the parents. They sneak out the house. We don't even see that stuff, and it's really interesting that we don't see that. And it must have been a choice. Do you know what I mean? To have that.
Yeah, totally. The other guys all meet up now, so all 4 of them meet up, and they're all discussing, and this really encapsulates Vern's character to me, Jerry O'Connell, because they're like discussing, what they brought, food, etc. And Jerry O'Connell's like, I brought a comb.
I love the fact that they don't bring any when they get to the point when they need food, and they don't. Who's got food? I thought you'd bring food. No, I thought you could. It's such a kid mentality. Nobody actually planned on who was going to bring the food. You just assumed.
No one's got any food. They're just out having a good time. All they've got is a little radio, a little battery-powered radio, a couple of sleeping bags, and nothing else. So they walk along the track singing, and they come across the famous junkyard. And the junkyard has a dog in it, doesn't it, Gav?
Yeah, sick balls chopper.
Yeah, so there's this little, and this is kind of like the Wonder Years at times, because this voiceover reminds me of that.
Well, that was out around the same time, so we had all these sort of programs, so it's quite nice actually.
And the voiceover now, so Will, as an older bloke, says, this junkyard was famous because it's guarded by a really savage dog whose owner is famously heard saying, "Chopper, sick balls." And he's trained this dog to go just for your balls, and that's it. But when they get there, there's no one there. The junkyard's empty.
Yep.
So they sit down, they fill up their water, they have a race, they throw the rock in the can because they didn't have Candy Crush on their phones back then, and they sort of pull the short straw of who's going to go to the shop, don't they, to pick up some food, because they've got about $4 or $5 between them, maybe. So I think Will has to go to the shop, and he picks up some hamburgers and some bread and some sweets and a few other bits and bobs. But when he comes back to the junkyard, of course, he can't find his friends, and then he looks over and sees them climbing over the fence, and that's because Chopper has arrived. So there's this really tense scene. I remember as a kid, this tense scene of him sprinting.
You got the narration coming back in again from Richard Dreyfuss saying, the guy said blah blah blah, but all I heard was "sick balls, Chopper."
Yeah, he didn't specifically say "sick balls," but that's what I heard. Yeah, totally. But he makes it. And this is where we find out a bit more about how mental Corey Feldman is, because they climb over the fence and they kind of goad the old guy and they call him names, and then he says, "Hey, wait a minute, I know who you are. You're Teddy Duchamp. Your dad's crazier than a shithouse squirrel. Yeah, he's in the loony bin, did it?" And he says, "He burnt your ear off," and sort of calls him lots of names. And he says, "I know all of you. I'm going to tell all you." And Teddy Duchamp, Corey Feldman, just loses it and tries to climb back.
He starts to lose it because he says, "I know who you. I know your dad. Your dad was loony," and starts to saying your dad's crazy and all stuff. And he defends his dad, which is funny, like you saying that he's also abused by his dad. He goes to defend his dad as well.
Yeah, indeed. And eventually, Chris just pulls him away. Chris is like definitely the leader of this gang, River Phoenix. He's very much. It almost seems like he's older than them all because he's got an old soul.
Yeah, that's River Phoenix all over though, isn't it? That's kind of who he was as a person.
He's very much. He said he played this character because it reminded him of himself, a guy always trying to resolve conflicts and keep the peace
in his family.
And his crazy family. So they get away from the junkyard.
You've missed a very, very, very poignant and amazing scene, which is running across the train tracks with the train coming.
No, that wasn't here yet.
Yeah, it's before. It's before the train. It's before they get to the scrapyard.
Oh, of course. When
the first thing they do. It's the first thing they do is they get on the train tracks when they start their journey. It's literally because I remember watching it this time and going, "Oh, this came in really early. I thought this came in a lot later." And
you mean the bit where Corey Feldman plays chicken with the train?
Yeah. Plays chicken with the train. Yeah.
And he pretends to shoot it with his sleeping bag.
Yeah, and it's quite nice because you get that coming on, but then obviously we get later on a reoccurring train scene, which is the super classic one from this.
Yeah, which is Vern all over in that scene.
Yeah, totally. All right, yes, carry on. Sorry.
That's cool, man. Pick me up. So when they leave the junkyard, we cut away to see something you mentioned, Gab, which is Ace and his gang are playing a spot of mailbox baseball, which is where they drive along in their car, smashing mailboxes with a baseball bat. And there's some kind of rules to this game. We don't know what it is, but these boys are definitely very, very naughty boys. That's all we know from this, really.
Are they, Daniel? Are they?
They are very, very naughty boys. That's all we know. So what happens next, Gav?
Whereabouts are we? Have we got the point of the mailbox hitting from the gang?
Yeah, that's just what we've said. So the mailboxes get smashed.
I do listen to you. I promise. I'm not ignoring you. And basically, Kiefer Sutherland's just like to these dudes. Like, what the fuck is up with you guys? Why are you acting so fucking weird? He says, "Oh, I promise you won't say anything." Goes, "Oh man," and they spill their guts on what's going on about this dead body. So
yes,
why do they want to go there and see a dead body?
Because they want to claim the reward as well.
So they're going to go,
everybody
right.
thinks they're going to get some kind of a reward. So Ace and his gang are now on the tracks.
Why do they know? They found it because they were fishing, right?
Yes, a couple of them were fishing.
Why don't they just go to the police now, say I know where it is, and the police will go there and they say thanks very much for that, and end of.
I'm not really sure why. I think they're just so afraid of Ace that anything they do, they think he's going to beat them up.
They should have just gone and done that. They didn't even need to involve him. It's I don't know, it's weird. But yes, they are a gang.
To be fair, Ace is incredibly scary and will pull a knife on anybody and everybody, which we'll see a bit later on.
Yeah.
So the boys are walking along the train track and they're talking about what they think the body might look like. They sing the famous scene, one of my favourite scenes, which is where they sing Lollipop. Lollipop, lollipop, and they all go dum dum dum.
Yeah,
it's great. Love that bit.
Well, you got not long before this, when they were sitting around having their little picnic of food they got from a shop. You got the narration comes back in again of just saying how happy they were. They knew where they were, what they wanted in life, and they just were happy being free and all this sort of stuff. And you get it's just reaffirms this feeling of this camaraderie with these kids and this group. Like, you get to feel it. You can feel that time. You can even I'm for myself. I imagine it very easily because I'm a male. I imagine this thing. I imagine if you're a female, you probably can remember these things of groups of people you had as your really closest friends and the journeys you went on, adventures. So it's so nice to have this. And going back to what you say, the song comes in and they're singing it as they walk down the road. It's just lovely.
What these next couple of scenes really do for me is they show how that these boys are on the cusp of becoming men, because they still are boys, they still have fun. In fact, at one point they're discussing whether Mighty Mouse could beat up Superman, but at the same time they're desperately trying to prove that they're men by talking about, we'll have cigarettes after we've had supper later. There's nothing like a cigarette after supper. Like they would know about that, they're 12. But they're desperately trying to show the men, but they're really, at heart, they're boys. And this is just before they've discovered girls or the opposite sex or whoever it is they're attracted to. They're just so innocent, really.
There's a reference to Abbott and Costello meet the Frankensteins. No, meets the mummy.
Really?
It's meets the mummy reference in it. And I was like, nice. Because I'm a fan, Abbott Costello fan. Yeah. I'd like to cover Abbott Costello movies, but I don't know. It might be a bit niche for some people.
I quite like those. They're fun. There's a great moment which sums up how grown up Chris Chambers, River Phoenix, is in this, because he says at one point, he says to Gordy, I wish to hell I was your dad, because I'd sure as hell, tell you all the things you needed to know that you are a good person and you're really, you're not a loser, you're not a letdown. This
movie is lovely in all these ways, and it must have been so good if you were a kid that had issues at home from mother and fathers and parental figures who weren't there or just didn't give you what you needed to grow and be the person you should be. I think this movie probably would have really helped some kids,
Movie is timeless, really, because it's set in the 50s, made in the 80s.
The message is still timeless. Absolutely, it always would be something like this.
Next thing we know, Gav, we've come to a bridge, don't we?
What this film is, it's not really about the dead body at all. It's the story's the journey. The story's not the end result.
They come to a bridge, and they all discuss whether they should cross the bridge. It will take them 10 minutes, or whether they should go around and it'll take them a couple of hours. And the reason they don't want to go over the bridge is because occasionally a train does come along, and if they're stuck on this bridge, there is nowhere to go. But they all think, fuck it, let's do it. Of course, halfway along the bridge, a train starts hurtling along.
It's amazing, isn't it?
This is great. Now, Vern drops his comb, so he suddenly starts shitting himself. Gordy's trying to pick him up to get him to run. The other two have already got over. They're like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And they're sprinting and sprinting and sprinting and sprinting. In the end, they have to jump.
It's filmed really well as well, because it's the long lenses you get, so it makes the train seem obviously closer than it is coming towards them. It's fucking brilliant.
But so this is a little bit of excitement, and again, this has brought them closer together again, because that's a near-death experience, really, for those two of those boys. So that's pretty intense. So already in this sort of day of walking, there's been tears, there's been arguments with the man in the junkyard, there's been a near-death experience, and now there is going to be a little cookout. So they set up camp.
Soon it'll be leeches on the knobs as well, soon.
Well, their knobs are going to get sucked just by a leech instead of a human. But moving
He-Man?
on. Not He-Man, a human.
Oh, that's not something you want to see He-Man doing, is it?
I have the power to give you a blowjob.
Man at arms, man at mouth.
He-Man, suck it. Skeletor's boner. Oh, Beastman likes it rough. Sorry, you took me on a bit of a He-Man tangent there, Carl. I'm sorry
It's
about that.
like you've played this whole fucking thing out already in your head.
Maybe I have. It's my birthday.
God, there's really weird deprived things that go on.
Deprived,
Deprived thoughts.
I've been deprived of a blowjob from He-Man all these years.
Depraved thoughts of He-Man and sexual escapades with Beastman and Skeleton Dude. Skeletor.
So let's get back to the boys. The boys have had their supper. They're having cigarettes.
And have not been blown by He-Man.
Or leeches yet, because they decide to get Gordy to tell him one of his stories, because Gordy is a writer, you see, and he's basically Stephen King as a boy, I think, in this. And he is a writer, and he says, all right, I've got a story I'm going to tell you all. And he tells them this absolutely incredible, hilarious story about a pie eating competition with a kid called Davy Hogan, who they all call Lardass.
Lardass.
And for anyone that hasn't seen it, I mean, you shouldn't be listening to this, but just to very quickly sum it up, it's all about a kid who's bullied because he's the biggest, fattest kid in the town. There's a pie eating competition, so just before the pie eating competition, he downs a bottle of castor oil, so that at the right moment, he has some eggs as well, doesn't he? So at the right moment, when he's eating about 5 or 6 of these purple pies, he starts vomiting everywhere, and then everybody in the crowd, all the other contestants, and it's just a sea of vomit everywhere, and it's just like the ultimate revenge tale, but also like a kid's version of an ultimate revenge tale.
I love the fact that he's like, so what's the ending? So I don't have an ending, that's the ending. He goes, I want an ending. Well, that's how it ends. Oh, I want an ending. He goes, well, it's my story, that's how I do it. There's like this discussion about it. It's quite funny.
I've got a funny little side note about it's actually a bit cruel about this little pie eating competition side story, which is at my primary school. So that's your first school in the UK, for anybody not in the UK. So you're at that school till you're about 11. And when I was about 8 or 9, a new boy arrived at the school. I won't say his name or anything like that, but he arrived at the school.
Jerry.
And I didn't know his name.
Can we call him Jerry?
You can call him Jerry. I didn't know his name at the time.
He did, it's Jerry.
Absolutely huge. He was really, really, really fat kid. He must have had something medically wrong with him to be that fat at his age. So because we were 9 or 10, we were mean. And I didn't know his name for the first week or so because he wasn't in my class. But I thought his name was Bimber or Barber, because I'd heard people saying it. And then I realised, when I was older, a lot of those kids had seen this Stand By Me, and they were calling him Boom Barber, when he walks, because when he walks in this pie eating competition, the whole crowd go Boom Barber, like the sound of
called Boombar.
I thought his name was Boombar or Bimber or something like that.
Was he like Indian?
No, he wasn't.
Why did we call Boombar?
They called him Boom Barber because of this movie.
I know that, but why would you think the dude's name is Boombar?
Because I had not seen Stand By Me at that age, and I didn't know what they were calling it.
Would you not question that?
No, I found out his name later on was Beep.
Jerry.
I like your dubby. Hang on, let's do that properly. I found out later his name was
Jerry.
And, I felt very sorry for him in the end.
Jerry.
Anyway, I don't know why I told this. It's very depressing and very confusing.
I used to work with a guy called Fat Mike. Yeah, I said his name.
Fat Mike.
Yeah, I didn't call him that, but that was what he went by. Well, to the other people, I suppose, the meanies.
Do you remember that weekend we did some work with Lumpy Derek?
Lumpy Derek, yeah. We coined him that, though. He does have lumps, though. To be fair.
He's covered in lumps. And then he said, do you like crisps? And I said, I like crisps, yeah. And he said, I eat about 10 bags of What's-Its a day. I thought...
He looked like a What's-It, didn't he?
He looked like a fucking What's-It, mate.
I wonder how he is.
Lumpy, I should imagine, Gav.
He was really lumpy. Sorry if any of you listeners are lumpy, but he was like he was proper lumpy. I mean, like proper fucking lumpy.
As fuck, like
real lumpy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, after the
looked like a crater of the moon, didn't it? Or something. Go on.
He looked like a Cheeto.
Cheeto, yeah.
Cheeto, not
or
Cheeto.
a chocolate mousse when you you sort of dig a spoon in to take a bit out, and there's all those, like an aero one, there's all those sort of airy holes there.
Hairy holes?
No, but he's lumpy, so actually it'd be a reverse of that, a negative of it. So let's just get off this, because this is going weird.
Let's get off it.
Lumpy.
So in the morning after they've told that story, because they all had to keep guard because they heard coyotes, etc. So in the morning, they're all sort of getting ready to carry on with their little adventure. And there's this really amazing scene which has stuck with me from my whole life. And that is the scene where Will Wheaton is reading a comic book on the side of the road and on the side of the train tracks. And a deer comes along. And the deer stops and looks at him, and he looks at it, and it walks away. And he says, I never told a single person about that deer, and I've never even written of it until now. And I thought that is so wonderful to sometimes have these really personal, beautiful moments. And I know I sound like I'm being a bit, I don't know, but I do think sometimes it is lovely to have. And in my life, I try to retain moments like that for just me, moments like the deer with the train tracks. Occasionally you'll see something really beautiful, and my first thought is to say, oh, look. But sometimes if no one's around, I think, no, that's just for me. And I think that's a really lovely little bit of writing.
Like special wanks and things.
Yeah, that's just for me, that is.
Excellent.
There you go. You've ruined my very touching little sentiment.
Yeah, it was still a touching moment, though.
Oh, for fuck's sake. So, the boys take a shortcut through the woods, and this is where, Gav, they go through the swamp.
And He-Man is there ready with the leeches.
He-Man! And this was a scene that we all talked about at school, because...
Yeah.
Fucking hell. They all climb out. They got leeches all over them.
Apart from one of them's got it in a special place.
Well, they think they've got rid of it all. These poor little boys in their little tiny little white pants. And then all of a sudden, Will Wheaton thinks, could there be? Please, God, no. And you can kind of hear what he's thinking, even though he's not thinking it. And he looks down, puts his hand down his pants, and pulls out a leech. But the weirdest thing about this leech is it's got blood all over it, so it's had a really good bite on something. I think it's actually his balls, isn't it? They say later on it was on his balls. And he faints. He fucking faints stone cold as well.
But he cut to Kiefer Sutherland and the gang, and they end up playing chicken in the car, because having a little race to 2 car loads of a group of guys which are going, because two groups in 2 cars. They play a bit of chicken, and Kiefer Sutherland wins when he does like a dangerous manoeuvre, doesn't he, Dendel?
Well, as I've said it before, Gavin, I'll say it again. They're very naughty boys.
Very naughty boys.
They're very naughty boys. And they make that truck crash with all the logs coming off of it.
Yeah.
But they're racing, so they're going to get. We know, because they're in cars, we know they're going to get to this body pretty soon. Whereas the boys have walked, for a couple of days to get to it. And
they do get to it, don't they?
And this is their next scene. So they arrive at the point where they think the body might be. They spread out, and then you hear one of them say, I found him, and you kind of just make out what looks like a guy, and they walk over, and there's a bush over him. And this just hit me when I was a kid, when I saw this. I thought, wow, I felt like I'd seen a real dead body. I don't know why it was. It was because of build-up, I think, all the way through. And there's a really, again, Stephen King's writing is fantastic. He says, the train had knocked him out of his shoes, just like it knocked the life out of his body. And he didn't even have his shoes on. He was just lying there without his shoes were somewhere else. He'd literally been smashed out of his own shoes. And they don't know what to say, because this is what they came here for. But wow, it takes their breath away for a moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. As much as I said earlier, the story is like their journey. This part of finding the body is obviously a conclusion to the journey, and obviously a point of return for them to go back to their lives.
Well, Gordy starts crying at this point, and it's never said, but I should imagine that's because it reminds him that he lost his brother last year.
Of course, and he might not have broken down that time, and now he's just using this to break down, and just it is a very poignant moment, and it gives you a moment to stop and reflect. And they want to cover up the body and just leave it and just be respectful, but then we have.
Well, just before we have, there is another moment where Chris says, Gordy says, it should have been me, and this is where it all comes out, flooding out, that he feels like he should have been the one that died, because he feels like his brother was the cool one that had all the talent, and this is where Chris really comforts him. River Phoenix puts his arm around him and says, come on. And then just as he puts his arm around him,
the gang turn up, don't they?
And I think they say something about them cuddling or something, don't they, to start things off, which is,
of course they do.
Which is great. And he says, what the fuck have we got here? And they're like, we got dibs on them. We got dibs. And Ace is like, no way, man. You haven't got dibs. He says, you got two choices. You either leave and we take the body, we beat the shit out of you.
But one of them there is his younger brother. How's he gonna get past that on his parents?
I don't know how.
If he beats his younger brother up, it's just because he's a naughty boy.
Well, they mouth off a little bit, and
like He-Man.
And Chris says, oh God. Chris says, why don't you go fuck your mother some more? And that makes Kiefer Sutherland very unhappy. So he pulls out his knife and he literally just goes to stab him, doesn't he? He's like, I'm not going to fuck around. I'm going to stab this 12-year-old right here.
I imagine it would have been like in the arm or something.
Suddenly a gunshot, and we forgot that they've got a gun.
Yeah.
And it's Gordy.
Big boy stepping up with their big boy toys.
He says, what are you going to do that? And he says, why don't you suck my fat one, you cheap dime store hood? What a line to deliver to Kiefer Sutherland when you're holding a gun at him and the gang. And he says,
yeah, I always thought at that point then, you're not always going to be holding a gun against them. They're going to get you.
Well, he does say, he says, we're going to get you for this. This isn't over. And then Kiefer Sutherland tries to deliver this line quite threatening, but it's not a very threatening line. He says, we're not going to forget this. This is big time. This is big time. That's not a threat, is it? This is big time, Gav. Maybe in the 50s it was a threat. I don't know.
Scared. I was quite scared then.
Oh, sorry. This is big time, Gav.
Oh, don't do it again.
So, the gang are eventually scared away by the gun, and the boys regroup. They do make a joke about, suck my fat one. Who told you had a fat one? And he says it's the biggest one in 4 counties. So we got a little bit of humour in here again. Eventually, though, they decide what they will do, and the movie kind of ends now. It's just basically a narration over what happens next, which is that they call in the body. They make an anonymous phone call to the police so that neither gang gets credit for it at all. They got home 2 days later, and he then makes this really sad comments. He sort of says, we saw Teddy and Vern less and less after that summer. They all struggled at school in various ways, but the other two did really well, Chris and Gordy, and they ended up going on through college. Teddy ended up getting in and out of prison because he couldn't get in the army, and now he just does odd jobs. Vern got married and has 4 kids. Chris struggled, but he managed to become a lawyer, but he really worked hard because he wasn't the most intelligent kid, but he worked really hard and became a lawyer. And enrolled in college, became a lawyer, and then a really sad scene, man. And because River Phoenix died, and this is kind of like that Brandon Lee and the Crow thing, really, that really sad moment where he says he was in a diner and he broke up a fight, but he got stabbed in the throat and died instantly. And as he says that, River Phoenix's character is walking away and just vanishes into thin air, and that is because he's dead now. Obviously, that really is so moving, so moving. And then we cut back to Richard Dreyfuss, grown up, and he's Gordy. He's finishing the book, and he makes my favourite line in the whole book. He types out, he says, I never had any friends like I did when I was 12 years old. Jesus, does anybody? And then his kids run in and say, come on, Daddy, we're going swimming. And he runs out, and that's the end. And it's just a phenomenal film.
It's nice to think of those nice and innocent times when you had no worries, carefree, you know.
It inspired me to
seems to be quite a distant memory for myself nowadays. It's 20 years ago.
30 years ago.
30 years ago. Fuck yeah.
I mean, it inspired me to have a very long conversation with Alice about this. You know, I said to her, "Oh God, that line at the end of that movie where he says that, you know, do we ever have friends like we did when we were 12?" But they might not be your best friends. They might have just been friends for a summer. But there was something about that. Everyone's got that one summer from sort of between the age of 9 and 15 where something magical happened with a group of friends, and this is it really. And Stephen King and Rob Reiner's direction, they've really captured it in this story. And it's got everything in it. It's funny. It's got adventure.
What was yours? Mine was 96. 96? Yes, mine was 96.
Hard to say, really. Probably.
Well, 97 actually, 97. But I was 20 then, so I felt a little bit older. But it was a very good summer. I wasn't working. I was skating all the time. I was just going to parties.
I think mine was a bit earlier. There was a couple of really great summers for me when I was 10 and 11, when I had a gang. There's only 4 of us, a little gang of kids we used to hang out with, and then none of my friends that I see anymore. But we had one of them had a shed in his back garden, and we were called Martin, Abbas, Dan, and Stephen, and we realised that spelt Mads with an S on the end, so we were like the Mads crew, and we wrote that on the shed, and we tried to go on adventures, and just magical times really. That was the summer I discovered RoboCop and Nightmare on Elm Street, so that's why those were really good years for me, 10 and 11, I think, those summers. Yeah, that would have been 88, 89.
If you took the M out, it'd also been sad as well, your group.
It would have been sad. We were quite sad, to be honest. We thought we were so cool. We thought we were like the famous 5 or Secret 7.
Indeed.
We just weren't.
Do you give this film a thumbs up?
I give it a dead kid lying by the railway tracks, stiff with rigor mortis, thumbs up.
Excellent. I'll second that, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a great movie. We've skipped through it real quick because it is a short movie.
I think you've been on the old crack cocaine, sir. You seem to be flying through that.
Oh, a great movie, and you can tell when I'm excited.
That film also does flow like that as well, though. It keeps on going very quickly. Story.
Well, it feels like it's only an hour long, doesn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Shall we break out of here? Come back.
Well, I've got some party poppers in the time machine and some birthday cake.
I've got some animal nitrate, which is also poppers.
Oh, those poppers.
Yeah.
Right. This is going to be a birthday to remember. Well, should we head back to 1988?
Let's ease ourselves with animal nitrate. Let's do this.
Whoa! What's this machine?
This is my time machine.
Your time machine?
Yeah. For the next 5 minutes, we are going to be the Time Team.
The Time Team! Whoa!
What's this? Look at that!
Look at that!
Oh, he's been dead 100 years. Look at that!
Look at that, it's the Statue of Liberty coming out of the sand.
Oh, there's a dinosaur!
Oh my god, look at that! It's something else.
Don't cough all over me. You might have the virus.
Oh, wow, here we are in 1988. Mm-hmm. I was 10 and you were 11.
I'm wondering, how do we social distance in this little hole of yours?
Well, we've got these special masks. Can I put these on?
Yeah, but both our heads are in the same mask.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Carry on.
Right, let's have a look around. It's 1988.
Oh. How old were you?
I was 10 and you were 11.
Okay.
So we were enjoying our own Stand By Me summers, I should probably imagine. With groups of friends on train tracks and dead bodies.
It would have been very innocent, I presume. Mine, I don't know what. I do remember doing some bits in the woods with some kids.
Oh dear. I hope you were a kid yourself, Gav, when that happened.
Yeah, and it wasn't weird. We weren't all like tugging each other. It was,
Right, look, it's my birthday. I don't want to talk about this. Okay? What I do want to talk about is something called salmonella, which hit the UK. It was all over the news.
Edwina Currie.
Yeah, there was a salmonella outbreak, and they thought this was big. I mean, they obviously didn't know what was going to happen in 2020, did they?
Yeah, and that's the woman who was the forefront runner of this campaign, Edwina Currie, if you don't know.
She liked banning things, didn't she?
She was your Mary Whitehouse, yes?
Yeah. So salmonella outbreak in the UK, which came from raw food and raw eggs. It was something at school that everyone talked about. I don't know why it was such a big deal. All you got to do is make sure you wash your hands and cook your food properly, really. But I guess not washing your hands has caused an outbreak of coronavirus. So there we go. Moving on. The UK pubs, thank God, started opening all day.
Oh, for some reason then, I thought we were in World of Strange and we were talking about salmonella poisoning. But we're not. We're in your time team.
We're in time team.
I wondered what was wearing the joint helmet with you in the World of Strange.
You all right? Is it scrambled your brain again?
I think it's always fucking isolation, man. I'm going a bit fucking loopy.
Jesus Christ! That's why I wanted to bring you back in time to get you out of the 2020s.
All right. So yes, after salmonella, what was going on?
UK pubs. They were allowed to open all day, and by all day, that just means they could open from 11 to 11. But that's still pretty damn good.
For the alcoholics.
These days, pubs open from 10 a.m. till about 2 a.m., don't they? So
yeah, and these days nothing's open.
Yeah, nothing's open at all these days. The first stealth bomber was announced this year as well. So the Gulf War was about to start.
Okay.
So yeah, the stealth bomber. Do you remember how incredible and exciting that was when it was all over the news?
I remember the Concorde being more of an exciting thing of the 80s.
I don't know.
What year was Concorde?
Oh, that was a lot earlier than this.
No, you've covered it. I think you mentioned it, didn't you?
We did. We did cover it about 5 years before this, maybe more than that.
Yeah.
We also had the first fibre optic transatlantic cable line laid underneath the sea, so that you could talk to people much easier without having to have satellites, etc., over the phone. This was before the internet, so that would have obviously been the precursor to the internet as well. And these days we can just talk to each other over Skype and whatever the other one is, Zoom and WhatsApp and everything else that there is out there. But that was something else that happened. But other than that, it was a fairly quiet year. A little bit of food poisoning, pubs opening a bit longer, stealth bomber, not much else. However, there were some good films. Stealth Bummer.
That could have been a gay parody. Yeah, go on.
I'm sure it is.
Or not even gay parody. That could be a straight parody also. Because everyone has bums.
Shall I talk about the films that came out this year?
Yeah.
Okay, so non-horror first. Having a look at what we got. Rain Man, Oscar-winning Rain Man came out this year.
Oh, all the numbers.
All the numbers. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Who did frame him?
Well, who did frame Roger Rabbit?
I'm asking you, who framed him?
I think it was Christopher Lloyd.
Okay.
The judge.
Spoiler.
Big came out this year with Tom Hanks.
Nice.
Twins with Arnold. And Danny DeVito.
And the sequel is about to come out.
Triplets
with Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, they've been talking about this for about 5 years.
It's
I
coming.
really hope it happens.
It is.
Oh my god, can you imagine how great that's going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite enjoying going back to like these movies from yesteryear, especially 80s, and then I'm going, let's do a new movie. I'm like, yeah, please make another Lethal Weapon. I just want to see all that shit again. I know it's going to be rubbish or whatever, but you know.
Well, Crocodile Dundee 2 came out this year.
Aren't they making a new Crocodile Dundee?
Well, they've made a movie all about Paul Hogan trying to restart the franchise.
Okay, so it's still in the zeitgeist, though, is what we're saying. Considering this is 88 we're talking about. Okay, carry on.
Die Hard.
And that's still a property where everyone's like, will there be another? I've got the last one on Blu-ray now because I got it for 50p from a charity shop. And I've tried 3 times watching it, and I can't make it. But I've brought it, so I'm gonna make myself watch it.
Is that the one with his son in Russia?
Yes. And he just doesn't want to be there anymore. So I can't get through it. I keep stopping it, going, this is terrible.
We also had Dangerous Liaisons, Beetlejuice, and A Fish Called Wanda. And just before we go into horror, some of the popular pop stars. We had Kylie Minogue, I Should Be So Lucky. Well, U2 were all over the place at this point. Everybody loved them. The Beach Boys were still in the charts in 88. Michael Jackson, Gloria Estefan, George Michael, Guns N' Roses. So we're coming up to the 90s now.
It's quite, apart from Gloria Estefan, all those other people are still relevant. Still in social media, it wouldn't be hard to find something fairly recent about someone. All of them, like Michael Jackson, obviously, yes. George Michael, not so much, but he did die a couple of years back. All the others are, though. Guns N' Roses, yeah. Interesting.
Well, what we're here for is the horror. The 1988 horror. So I'm going to start going through what came out this year.
All right.
So we had Child's Play, the very first Child's Play dropped this year, which I'm a huge fan of.
I need to watch that flick again, man. I've got a VHS copy. I feel like I actually watched my VHS copy. I think it's a rental, so it's probably got the trailers and shit.
You just giving me the finger there, Gav?
I was itching my nose with that actual finger.
Fuck you too.
I don't know why I chose that finger to itch my nose. Go on.
Yes. Hellraiser 2 came out this year, Hellbound. I'm a fan of the first couple of Hellraiser movies.
Yep.
Another movie which people don't talk about very often, which is a lot of fun, Maniac Cop, dropped this year as well.
Yeah, I said to Sarah recently, I said, oh, you need to watch it, and she watched it, and she really disliked it.
Oh, I'm a big fan of that. It's probably not as good as I remember it. I haven't seen it for a good 5
Bruce Campbell,
years.
though.
Yeah, Brucey boy.
Brucey boy.
We had the return of your favourite slasher came out back this year, Gav. So it was the 4th Halloween movie, The Return of Michael Myers.
I do quite like that one.
This is the one where the franchise started to take a strange turn.
It
for
did.
A while,
It did.
It?
Then after this, it went quite loopy.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell, on a side note, in isolation at the moment, I saw a picture of him on Twitter the other day. Big, massive grey beard.
I know, he looks handsome as fuck, doesn't he? I saw that.
He looks handsome. I'd go gay for him.
He looks great. I saw that. I'm a big fan of a beard, so, you know, anyone out there with a beard.
I can't wait till I go grey, though, all over.
Another movie which dropped in 1988, which I am not a fan of, but I know everybody else is, and I don't know why that is Pumpkinhead. But I just can't really get it. I don't like it very much.
No, it's all right. Lance Henriksen, isn't it? It's all right.
Yeah.
It is interesting because it's directed by Uji Maduji, did the effects and now passed away, bless him. Oh, what's he called, for God's sake?
Oh, the director is...
It's the only movie...
Stan Winston.
Stan Winston, of course. And it's because he directed it, so it's interesting. It's his first movie directed, and it could also be the last movie he directed as well. Yes, carry on.
I'm not a fan. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master.
Don't remember it.
Another Nightmare on Elm Street. So they're still pumping out the sequels to some of these
I remember
franchises.
the kills, I just remember the story.
The Blob.
Mm-hmm.
The remake of The Blob. Another great movie which we should cover at some point with The Stuff, because there are a couple of gooey movies to talk about.
Goopy films.
Scarecrows dropped to 1988, which no one really talks about, and we covered that in a very, very, very early episode. Do you remember Scarecrows?
Yes.
This is where the
Episode
robbers sort of drop into the farm.
That's
and they
when
don't
we
realise...
used to do a YouTube film mixed with a regular film, just so everyone could watch. Because
Yeah,
we were being nice, weren't we? Trying to be free for the world.
We were indeed. Waxwork came out this year.
Yep.
A lot of fun. Phantasm 2, we covered that as well. That's all right. Phantasm 1 is the best one. It's just a lot of fun, really. Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
Yep.
I don't know if I remember that one as well as the first one. It's
pretty much the same as the first one.
Yeah.
It's
Fright
the Eat
Night
More
Part
Brains.
Fright Night Part 2.
Send more paramedics. It's that one.
Oh, that's right.
Send
We need
more
brains.
paramedics.
That's right. Friday Night Part 2.
I'm a big fan, and I really want to cover this film. I'm like a super big fan of this movie.
We should do it. We should do another sequel episode where we talk about a couple of sequels that aren't often talked about, because it is a great movie.
I
really
really love that film. I love it as much as the first. I'd love to have like a double Blu-ray box set type
I might
thing.
do a double bill of those two movies at some point, actually. You've inspired me.
They're both fucking rad films.
Indeed. What else came out this year? We also got Slugs, Howling 4, the original. What's it called? That one?
Which one's that? That's not the castle, is it?
It's called. Hang on, let me have a look.
Is that the Aussie one was 3 or 2? No, 3. Circus one was 4. That's gonna be the Circus Freaks one. I remember seeing that on Sky Movies back in the day.
Oh, it's not very good. It's about an author that moves to a town, and there's werewolves in the town. It's not very good, that one.
Oh.
Friday the
remember that
13th, Part 7.
Okay.
This is the New Beginning. This is the one... Sorry, the New Blood. This is the one with basically Carrie versus Jason, because you've got the girl who with the... she's got the telekinesis, and she resurrects Jason accidentally out of the lake.
Oh, yes.
It's quite good.
The one we don't speak of that much.
Poltergeist 3, the final one, and the final movie.
Oh, God, poor little Carol Ann.
Yeah, bless her. She died not during making it, but she
they
definitely
did,
died
because they had a
now.
double do the behind her shots.
That's right. And she's visibly quite ill in some of these things. It's really sad, actually.
But that whole film's cursed, though, isn't it, really?
We did talk about that, didn't we? The whole series is kind of just cursed, really.
We haven't covered Poltergeist?
We haven't covered Poltergeist 1.
What
no,
are
we
we
haven't
going to do
covered
for
that.
Halloween this year? If we're allowed to actually be with each other in the same room.
We are covering The Exorcist. We're going to do a commentary over The Exorcist.
Oh, man. That's going to be so interesting, because the times I've watched it, I've just been like, I don't get what everyone sees. So it's going to be really interesting chatting about it with you.
It's my scariest film.
I reckon we should do lights out and everything, you know.
Do you want me to be cuddling you and dribbling into your shoulder the whole...
That's the idea.
Show? Okay, then that's fine. We'll do it. What else came out this year? We also got Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is actually quite a lot of fun.
Campy classic.
Yeah, I watched it about a year ago and thought, yeah, it's actually alright.
I got quite a fan following that.
Yeah, we got Dead Ringers came out this year with the two the two gynecologist twins. I think we talked about that, didn't we, before?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, and it doesn't sound like a movie I want to see, to be honest with you.
We did our Cronenberg episode. But yes, that's pretty much everything really major that came out this year. So we are, as we said in the last Travel Back in Time, we are starting to move away from some of those more classic horrors. Apart from Child's Play and, you know, a couple of sequels to franchises, there's not an awful lot really to discuss this year, and we will see that perhaps even over the next year and going into the early 90s, unfortunately, won't we, Gav? But then the mid-90s, we're both excited about entering the mid-90s. That's going to be fun, isn't it?
Indeed. All right, well, thank you very much, Daniel, for letting us sit in your stinky
time machine
capsule.
Yes, it's my birthday. Be nice about my shiny time helmet.
Gonna give you a few bumps. Birthday bumps. Oh.
Well, I think we should get back in because the space-time continuum is starting to mess with both of us here, and the helmet is getting tighter. So, you ready?
Yes, let's do this.
There's something else.
Ask Jasmine.
So, we have just watched The Wicker Man, haven't we, Jay? How's The Wicker Man? Weird, you thought, didn't you?
Yes.
What about the ending?
That was okay.
You thought the naked woman slapping the walls was funny, didn't you? But let's talk about the horror of the movie. You just finished watching it. Him dying and burning in there. It's pretty full on, isn't it?
I've seen worse deaths.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the horrific part of that movie. That's the horror of it. That he's brought to the island to be slaughtered and killed.
It's not very scary.
It was quite scary.
No, it isn't.
Okay, alright. So what did you like about the movie?
You say this is scary, yet when you watch genuine monsters and things, literally loads of blood erupting from you don't care. You were just like, yeah, it wasn't that
this is more
scary.
psychological though. This is like the fact that they've teased this man to go in there. He's trying to help someone, and he's been taken there brought there to be sacrificed and killed. And he's there to try and help someone. That's the horror, isn't it? It's more psychological. Well, it's not It's not psychological. It's just more traumatic. You know? Did you like it?
It was okay.
That's a classic horror movie. It's okay.
It wasn't very scary.
No, it's not. I've got some amazing movies to introduce you to, but there you go. Yeah, which are scary, but I'm not letting you get into them yet because they're too scary for you. Only just a teenager. Really, I used to watch loads. Anyway, that's that. Thank you for doing a little... Did you give it a thumbs up? Good.
You almost died. You have a compound fracture of the tibia in both legs, and the fibula in the right leg is fractured too. And as soon as the road's open, I'll take you to a hospital. In the meantime, you've got a lot of recovering to do. There is nothing to worry about. You're gonna be just fine. I'm your #1 fan. My name is Annie Wilkes.
I think one of my clients, Paul Sheldon, might be in some kind of trouble.
You mean Paul Sheldon, the writer? Well, everybody sure likes those misery books.
They had it at the store, Paul.
They said he checked out last Tuesday. Isn't that a little strange?
I guess it was kind of a miracle you finding me.
In a way, I was following you.
You were following me?
Oh, Paul, I've read everything of yours, but the misery novels. You must be a good man. You could never have created such a wondrous, loving creature as Misery Chastain.
Very kind.
The presumption must now be that Paul Sheldon is dead.
You dirty bird. How could you? Misery Chastain cannot be dead.
Misery Spirit is still alive.
I don't want her, Smith! I want her! And you murdered her!
don't think he's dead, do you?
And don't even think about anybody coming for you, because I never called them. Nobody knows you're here. And you better hope nothing happens to me. Because if I die, you die. I know you've been out. Is this what you're looking for? Eventually, you'll come to accept the idea of being here.
Annie, whatever you think about doing, please don't do it. Annie, for God's...
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best. God, I love you.
Cool, so we are back for our second Dan's birthday celebration movies, and this is Misery from 1990. After a famous author is rescued from a car crash by a fan of his novels, he comes to realize that the care he is receiving is only the beginning of a nightmare of captivity and abuse. There we go. What can we say about this, Gav?
It's a very good film. This is like the third time I've watched it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember really the first time. It was when I was younger. It didn't really appeal to me for some reason when I was younger. Watch it nowadays, I really love it. I really like this movie as this long drawn out horror movie, but it feels like one of those 90s thrillers, you know.
Yeah.
I really like it, yeah, and it's really nice watching it for this review. Tell me your thoughts on the movie.
It's definitely horror, and it's very funny at times as well. Again, it's Stephen King, and I read the book when I was quite young. My dad didn't have a lot of books. He was in one of those book clubs where you send off through the post and you get a book every week or something, or every month or something, and this was one of them, and I did pick it up and try to read it when I was young. It was struggled to sort of read it, but did watch the movie, and watched the movie a couple of times. I've watched it quite a few times recently, actually. I watched it over Christmas because it's quite a snowy movie. We talked about it when we did our snow icy movies, didn't we, a long time ago as well? And we only touched about it. We only touched on it. But it's definitely one to talk about because it's got a fantastic villain in it, Annie Wilkes, played by Kathy Bates. James Caan's in it as well, who doesn't really get talked about an awful lot, particularly in horror movies. And there's not really many other characters in it. It is really just those two. There's a couple of other characters that pop up, but you get the feeling it's quite a personal film as well for Stephen King, because it's about the writer, kind of like The Shining, really. Kind of does share similar elements to The Shining as well, about writer, isolation, his work getting on top of him. In this case, his work is being used almost against him. So it's definitely a fun film, but I do get a real kick out of watching this almost as a comedy every time I watch it, because the situation is ridiculous, really.
A comedy?
And yeah, I just feel it's like she's so insane, it's almost funny.
It was a stage play 2 years ago of Bruce Willis, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was reading about that. I thought
crazy. Apparently got all right reviews as well.
Can't imagine Bruce Willis actually bothering to do anything though. He just seems like he can't be.
Well, that's perfect though. He lies in bed.
Oh yeah, that's the only reason he took it.
Probably is.
Do you want to be in a play?
Oh,
not really.
What do I have to do?
You get to lie in bed for most of it. Yeah, all right.
Okay. 5 zeros. Okay.
Well, let's go through this then. So, Paul Sheldon is James Caan's character, and Paul Sheldon is a famous writer, and he's written a series of books all about a character called Misery. And
he's fallen into the Mills and Boone, the romantic novel the older housewife reads bored on a Monday morning with their fag and coffee.
There's a formula to his books. They're cheesy,
and he's fallen into it, and he's stuck,
really.
And he doesn't want to do this anymore, so he needs to kill off the character, basically.
Yeah, so he decides this is going to be the last one. So we actually start with him finishing off the last book in the Misery series, and he's got a little tradition, which is when he finishes his book, he doesn't smoke anymore because he stopped smoking years ago, but when he's finished his book, he does have a cigarette and he has a glass of champagne, and that's his little tradition that he always does. And he always writes it in this little cabin out in the middle of nowhere as well, doesn't he? Which is a very nice little tradition, actually, and it's quite cool. It's probably something similar to Stephen King, although he probably had a massive bag of cocaine when he'd finished writing his books.
More than likely.
Probably before he started writing them and during them as well.
And all the way through.
But yes, so that's what he does, and that's Paul. And we get these beautiful shots, and this is what I think shares Rob Reiner's. This and Stand By Me do have a lot of very fantastic, beautiful shots of nature. Rob Reiner does capture that. That's perhaps the only shared visuals between the films. But you do get to see him driving along, and he's driving his car along all these snowy mountain roads. He's listening to some funky tunes on his radio. Very happy, he's wrapped up his final book. When all of a sudden a blizzard hits.
Straight into the action, isn't it? Straight in there, beginning of this movie.
I've written 4 minutes into this.
Yeah.
So
I looked
within
at the
4
time.
minutes, we've established he's finished his book, he's had his cigarette and his champagne, and he's driven along and flipped the car into a ravine, a snowy ravine.
Yeah.
And that is how we start the film, 4 minutes into it.
Yeah, indeed.
So we get some flashbacks to find out a bit more here of him saying he's going to kill off Misery. He's talking to his publicist. And while all that's sort of happening, Annie Wilkes, the saviour in this movie, we think, played by Kathy Bates. So I don't think it's ever been better. I think she is brilliant in this.
Her first filmetric, cinematic role, because she come from stage plays. And her acting style, she was like very much a rehearser. Where old what's he called? James
Caan.
James
was
Caan
not.
wasn't. They didn't want to do it in this.
rehearsing.
Yeah, and they both clashed on acting style. But this is her first cinematic acting debut.
And that works really well because actually the tension between them obviously spills onto the screen. So that does work very well, that there was a bit of tension on the set, just because they've got different styles of acting and working.
Yeah.
So she crowbars open the car door. She gives him the kiss of life, and she is incredibly strong because she picks him up over her shoulder and just carries him off, doesn't she?
Yeah, she is she's an old farmhand, that's for sure.
She is a big old girl, and I wouldn't want to mess with her. And we will find out a bit more about that in a moment. So he wakes up, and he's on a drip, and he's sort of looking around this room. Where am I? What the fuck just happened? I think I was in a car crash. Shit. Am I not? This isn't a hospital. And he says, "Who are you?" And before she says anything else, she says, "Oh, I'm your #1 fan."
Oh, that's nice to know.
It's the first thing you hear when you wake up. Not what
It's
you
like,
want, is it?
that's good to know. Yeah.
She says, "I'm also a nurse." So that's good. So he feels like he's in kind of safe hands.
Yeah, well, he's already woken up to being patched up, so he's already been treated. And she brings him painkillers and stuff. So, and she talks to him about medicines and whatnot. So he's like, oh, okay, like at least, like I'm stuck here. She says to him, obviously, like the phone lines are down. You're not going to get anywhere for a while, etc., etc. So
she weaves quite a realistic sounding lie. We don't know it's a lie yet.
Well, we don't know, do we know?
But it's a very realistic story. Yeah, the phone lines are down, the snow's on the road. Here's some pills. I'm a nurse. It's all good. Don't worry about it. She seems very meek and mild, almost a little bit. She's definitely a fangirl. We get that immediately, but she seems like a bit timid and a bit shy. But we don't know what's bubbling down inside her, do we? So we'll find out more about that in a moment. She talks about how she pushed his shoulder back in because his shoulder was dislocated, and how she reset his legs. And she peels back the sheets on the bed to reveal his legs. And they are a mess, aren't they?
Yeah, totally. And it obviously goes to show him, like, oh, God, you are messed up. And when it comes down to it, he's stuck. He has no choice but do whatever she says and eat whatever food she serves and poo in a pot what she cleans and takes away, and just everything like that. He is stuck at her mercy of a fan.
Yep, completely.
Oh God, it's like the worst situation, isn't it?
Now, while while the story's being set up, we do cut away from this scenario occasionally, which does work, and we get his publicist Marcia. She calls up the local Sheriff Buster, just to report that Paul's missing. Has anybody seen him?
It's his book agent, isn't it? Yeah.
So that starts a chain of events which kind of goes on through the side of Buster.
Do you reminded me kind of Charlton Heston in The Mouth of Madness?
Oh yeah.
Where you've got the office behind the book publishers, and there's something going on there. We need to look into it. Just that part of it.
Well, it's funny that we talked about Twin Peaks as well earlier, because there's a little bit of a Twin Peaksness about this town and about this sheriff and how he's sort of bumbling along trying to solve, where's Paul?
I love the sheriff in this old dude. He's so
I love
old
his
school.
relationship with his wife.
I love his relationship with his wife, and she just wants to get banged. It's amazing.
Yeah, she's very horny old lady, isn't she?
Yeah. She's always saying stuff, and he's just very dry with his sarcastic returns to it. And it's such, but you can tell that they're both absolutely in love with each other. It's very, very pleasant, actually.
Very sweet. And again, I think Rob Reiner is very good at just
encapsulating that, especially the town people and the relationships between people.
The genuine sweetness that there is sometimes. Yeah, definitely.
And you can tell he's like the lead sheriff, so you got to think like you kind of trust this town that they're from if he's like the main guy. Do you know what I mean? He leads the town. This town's probably lovely.
I'd love to go and share a bottle of scotch with him, and sort of chat to him one evening.
Smoke some Marlboros.
Yeah, totally. Well, while Paul has been reported missing, we cut back, and Annie is now doing something which I've only ever let one person do to me once.
Feeding
and that
him?
is she's shaving him.
Oh, okay.
It's very, you feel very vulnerable when you let somebody put a razor on your throat. Do you know what I mean? She's shaving him very carefully.
And what she's doing is she's telling him, I'll go to town and I'll call your people. And as soon as the phone lines are back up and all sorts of stuff, she's still letting him know that he's safe, he's at hand, it's all right while she's doing this,
But she also says, I must admit, I do stalk you from time to time. I know that you come to my town to write your books.
Imagine if it was Facebook era. God.
Well, she admits she sits outside the cabin some nights and watches his shadow.
Actually, it's probably worse now. Kathy Bates done it here because she has to actually go out of her way to stalk, not just Facebook.
And she admits that she watches him from her car some evenings. So
Because
knows a lot about him.
He doesn't live in this place, by the way, guys. He's just like
he's from
a
New
visitor,
York, isn't he?
And he goes here to write. Sometimes he's got traditions, and he's just gone to this very snow. It's a very Shining type place. The movie starts up kind of like The Shining, driving along in the snow. And yeah, she still seems quite nice though, as her looking after him. But again, he's stuck to his fan.
She asks if she can read his, because he's got the transcript for his final book, his new book.
Which is a Misery one, and she's a massive Misery fan. Her pig is called Misery.
Yes, we will meet the pig in a moment.
Misery Chastain, isn't it?
She asks if she can read the new book, and he's like, I don't normally let people read the books really until they're out. I'd rather probably not, but I think he sort of agrees, go on then, you are sort of saving my life, so... That's fine. We'll do that.
And you got the sheriff doing his mystery part now. He's had this phone call, so he's investigating. And do you know what? We're 18 minutes into the film.
So much has happened.
That's insane.
Because he then goes to the Sheriff Buster goes to the lodge and sort of says, Paul, Paul Sheldon. He's like, yeah, he comes here and writes this book every few years. Yeah, he left ages ago. He checked out, he did his usual cigarette and champagne, and he was gone. So then he thinks, right, okay, so he's been missing for a couple of days now. I better get on the road and start having a look around. So he's got this is like excitement for Buster, Sheriff Buster, because nothing happens in this town really, and this is something for him to actually do. You get the sense that, it gets me out of the house a bit. I might as well go and see if I can find this Paul Sheldon character somewhere out there. Annie is feeding Paul some soup in bed, and she's read some of the book, and she says, I wouldn't like to critique it because it's not for me, but I must say that I do find the swearing and some of the profanity in the book to be a bit much, actually. It's just not very nice, actually. I mean, people don't go to the bank, and this is where she really turns now. She sort of says,
she shows this psycho moment.
And so I'm want to pay in this check and get my Christing money. But she gets all the swear words wrong because you get the feeling she's probably maybe a virgin.
I was about to say she's a virgin.
Definitely like very Christian, and she just doesn't really know much about anything. She's quite innocent almost, isn't she?
Watching this movie, you wouldn't be mistaken thinking, is she gonna get on top of him and try and have sex with him? You wouldn't be far wrong thinking that.
That would be a whole other film, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Sexy film.
Well, while she's getting angry and acting quite psycho. She spills soup on him a bit, which burns him, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it brings it back to normal again, doesn't it? Yeah.
And she says, as she walks out the room, she says, "I love you, Paul." And then shuts the door, and he just thinks, the look on James Caan's face is so... This is what I'm saying, it's quite a comedy, because she says, "I love you, Paul," shuts the door, and he just sort of looks almost at the camera like...
Do you know, this is... Look, do you remember we'd done James Caan's first film?
What was James Caan's first? Oh, The Lady in the Cage.
Yeah, that was a contained movie set in one house. This movie is a contained movie set in one house, and one of the... not the last movie, obviously, it's not deceased. A movie I've seen of his fairly recently in the past couple of years is that found footage-y type movie, which isn't so much with the kids. Bad Neighbour or something, and they're taking surveillance on him, and he lives next door, and he's pretty much just in his house the whole time, which is a contained film in a house. Isn't that interesting?
Maybe he just likes doing those kind of things.
Yes, that Bruce Willis thing again. Do I have to leave the house? No, stay in one house. Good.
Buster finds he's out driving along.
My notes say sheriff gets his horny wife to stop the car.
She's kind of touching him up when he's driving along.
It's just like, don't do that when we're in the snow as well.
She's like, well. So he ends up saying, "Hang on a minute, there's some car tracks here."
He needs to give her some poking, doesn't he?
He really does. I'm sure he does. She seems like an insatiable woman, to be honest. Whilst he stops the car, there is a little sneaky peek of Annie driving by, isn't there? And she sort of spots that.
I love it. She just goes by so calmly. Well, he gets out of the car and he goes down and starts climbing around the snow, and then it gets to the point where he's almost seeing a tire. It's very much like Donald Pleasance almost finding the bodies when he's looking for Michael Myers' car in Halloween, the first original one.
And they're just not quite in his view.
Just not getting it. And then going back in, and just as he's back up to the car on the road, Kathy Bates just goes past, just absolutely looking deadpan forward, not even looking at him, no emotion, nothing. She's like, nope, didn't find that car.
She gets back.
She's like a psycho in the making.
She gets back and she says to him, I've just bought your new book, look, the one that came out last, not this new one he's obviously just written. And he almost catches her out. He says, well, so the roads are open then? She says, oh, no, all the main roads are still shut, but the small road that leads into the town is open.
Yeah, she says she called an agent and a surgeon.
Yeah, she spoke to a surgeon, because she's a nurse, don't forget.
Oh, right, thank you.
But she says she did that from the shop in town because her phone is still out. And so it's plausible.
And I love the fact she hasn't even read the book yet. So she's kind of planning on keeping him a little bit longer. They both must know that this is the beginning of something. He's going to be there for a little while because of the state he's in.
Well, all of a sudden, her pet comes into the room, Gav. Why don't you explain what happens here?
There's a big old pig comes into it, which is called Misery.
But the first time I saw this, I thought, this is clearly a nightmare. This isn't really happening. He's having a crazy dream on the medication. But no, she says, this is my pet, Misery. I thought about getting a dog, and I thought I want something, and there's nobody more loyal than this.
She's not a virgin, is she? Because her husband left her.
Ah, that's right. She had a husband.
Yeah, and now she's waiting for the right guy. Hint, hint.
That's right. This is where she reveals her husband left and she's been lonely.
Yeah,
so she got the pig.
You really don't want your number one fan, whose husband left ages ago and who's lonely, to be looking after you when you're busted up.
She does the oink oink. Also, she reveals this really sad story about her husband leaving her, etc. All the while, this is again the comedy moment. You're sort of looking at him and you're wondering why his face is so strange while he's listening to her tell that story, and then he suddenly pulls out the piss pot. So the whole time she's been telling him the story, he's been trying to piss into a piss pot. She's just like, then my husband left me, then I got a pig, my pig's called Misery.
It's like, give the dude just leave the room and then come back. Just stand there. It's almost perversely sexual.
The comedy continues because he's holding his piss pot and she's sloshing it around in a very animated fashion while she's finishing off the story. He's going, and then the pig comes in, and then we had a bit of slosh, and his eyes are just on his own piss in the pot.
No, this whole point, you're with him, looking at her, going, "Oh my God, she's insane! Oh my God, she's insane! Oh my God, she's insane!"
So good. And then she runs off to finish reading the new manuscript of the book, and He gets a little moment's peace until, bang, in she comes into the room. You dirty bird, she says.
She's not happy with the book's ending.
Yeah, and basically, she does not like the fact that he's killed off Misery in the book. She can't be dead. She starts screaming and going mental.
And she lets him know that she hasn't actually made any phone calls at all. That's crazy.
Well, and she picks up a chair and smashes it against the wall just above his head.
Yep.
She's incredibly strong.
Yeah.
And then she reveals, nobody's coming for you. I didn't call anybody. And then she leaves the room. And this is where the movie takes it. Okay, definitely sinister turn now. You're like, okay, this has gone from crazy to really weird to fucking terrifying.
This is your second act. Yeah. Yeah, we now know that she is a little bit psycho.
He falls out of bed on purpose, and he tries to drag himself along to get to the door, and the door's locked. So she's been locking him in the room every time. She comes back in the room and thinks he's just fallen out of bed. So she says, like, God said I must show you the way. Oh, God, she's throwing God into it. Here we go. So she picks him up. And she puts him back in the bed.
Yep.
And then she says, God said I must show you the way. And she wheels a barbecue into the middle of the room.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please do not barbecue inside your house.
She throws the Misery manuscript onto the barbecue and soaks it in lighter fluid. Now, while she's talking about what he needs to do, like with the piss, she starts sploshing lighter fluid all over the bed. Did you notice her doing that?
Yeah.
It was squirting all over the place. And she basically says...
She's unhinged.
She says, you must set this book on fire because it's not fit for the world to read. Come on. It's really insane, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The helicopter goes overhead.
It's great. The old sheriff's got a helicopter going. I presume you would have one on standby in such places.
Rob Reiner plays the pilot in this.
Yes.
And that's quite cool. So he's out looking. And is this where he spots the car?
Yeah.
He spots the car. So he sees the car.
He's probably like gutted. He's like, I was there the other day.
Fuck's sake. My wife just wanted a shag.
If I'd have walked 5 more feet.
Yeah. Paul has started hiding the pills that he's been given because she's feeding him a lot of pain pills. And he's sort of not quite with it.
So he's just not taking them. Yeah, not for any plan, but this does come into play.
Yeah. Well, he hides them. He's very clever. He hides them by cutting open a little hole in the mattress with a knife and just sort of pushing them into the mattress that she won't find out. And now he's getting a little bit more healed. So now she brings a wheelchair into play and a typewriter.
Because she wants him to rewrite the book. Oh my God.
And she says, she doesn't even know how to say she is. She just says, the view will inspire you. She just sits him in the window.
And gives him a shitty typewriter where one key doesn't work. So every time he writes, it's like the letter N or something. And this was what Stephen King actually had a typewriter which was like this. It's insane. Here, you can't go anywhere. Rewrite that book. I don't like the ending. Like, oh my God.
What's great about his character, Paul Sheldon, is because he's written so many novels that are about crime and murder, his mind works in that way. But what I was going to say is his mind works in that way. So he now starts to figure out how he can play her to try and escape the situation. So he finds a hairpin on the floor. He starts sort of kissing her ass a little bit with some of his comments. He says, I'm going to need better paper than this. I'm happy to do it, but I need better paper.
It doesn't smudge. He writes the word smudge, then smudges across it, which I thought, that's really Banksy or something.
Well, she says, but this is the paper you always use. And he's like, no, I use this other paper. She's like, it was the most expensive paper. I thought it was the best paper. And she grabs the paper and she says, I'll get your paper then, shall I? You ungrateful. And she just smashes the paper down onto his broken legs.
Yeah.
And he's just sort of, God. It's like James Caan plays the pain so well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's just, you really feel it.
So she goes to town and he actually manages to get himself out of bed painfully, falls to the floor, gets himself over, and he actually he's not up in a wheelchair, is he? Is he just called himself over?
He picks the lock. He gets out.
He picks a lock with a hairpin. He doesn't know he's actually going to be able to do it. It's quite impressive that he does. And he actually does it. He goes out the room, gets to a phone, and it's a bloody ornament telephone.
It's empty inside, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now that is quite scary to know that somebody's got a phone in their house that is a fake phone. What
It's
does that
really
say about
reminded
this person?
me of Lady in the Cage, this movie. You got Lady in the Cage crawls around the place trying to get to a phone.
Oh yeah, and you got the phone as well.
Yeah, really interesting.
Well, he wheels along the house and he bumps the penguin. We all know about the penguin. And he puts the penguin back. Now this is going to be his downfall because she is so OCD that the penguin isn't going to be facing quite the right way. He also finds a shrine to himself where there's lots of pictures of him.
That's what you need, isn't it?
And loads of all of his books and a signed picture that he must have signed for at some point and sent.
Yeah.
Either that or she's faked it. I was wondering that. I was wondering, did she fake that or did she like send off for it like you can in the post? I doubt he would remember meeting her. I'm sure. Like, well, maybe not. I don't know, but
no,
maybe
probably not. No.
Maybe he did meet her at a book signing once. I don't know, but he finds the room like the what do you call it?
It's a store cupboard.
Store cupboard. It's got all the tablets in it. So he grabs a load of tablets.
Yes.
And now this turns into one of my most favourite tense scenes and suspenseful scenes in any movie.
She's returning
really.
home. And we know that he can't move fast, and he has to lock the door and get back to bed.
And he is sweating. So he crawls back along the kitchen. He gets back into the wheelchair. He hears the car pulling up. She steps up, and there's that clever thing where she's, I've just forgotten something. Goes back to the car very quickly, gives him a few extra seconds. It's so tense. He locks and shuts all the doors, and she comes back in the room, and obviously we know why he's sweating. It's because he's really scared, but also he's just been like pulling himself all over the floor. However, she's like, "What's wrong with you? You're soaked in sweat." And he sort of says, "I need my pills. I'm in so much pain. I need my pills." And she's like, "You poor little baby. I'll look after you. Don't worry." And she blows him a kiss, which he pretends to catch just because he's like, "I've got to play this out, man." So he like catches the kiss and it's like, thank you.
And this movie is now halfway through, and we're so zooming through this film. It's amazing.
It's so good. Oh, this is where the helicopter spots the car now. That's right. So the helicopter at this point spotted the car.
They have a meal to celebrate the finishing of the novel.
Well, we see him emptying all the pill capsules into a little envelope, which he hides down his pants. And at one point, you get that almost Shining reference where he types buck on the
this movie has a lot of comparisons to The Shining.
She doesn't like his work so far, again, because of the swearing. She says, "The cock-a-doodie car," and says all that stuff to him, and she wants him to rewrite everything he's done most of what he's done so far. But eventually he starts writing the things that she likes. So he starts writing Misery's Come Back to Life, etc., etc., and she finishes the book. She starts spinning around the room like, "Misery's alive! Oh, I'm so happy!" And then as she walks out the room, this is where he says, "Gav, would you like to have dinner with me tonight?" And she is over the moon about this. This is like if John Carpenter was in a car crash and me and you were looking after him and he said, "Would you like to have dinner with us tonight?"
He would be so grouchy to look after. "Give me my cigarettes."
He just wants those cigarettes, wouldn't he?
"Give me a video game and fuck off. I don't want to talk about films."
Just on a side story, Sheriff Buster...
Would we make John Carpenter sit there just playing the synthesizer songs?
We tell him to make a movie.
Make a movie while you sit there. What? Make a movie. I'll act in it, film it, direct it, do the music.
We'd tell him to ring up Kurt Russell so that we could talk to him on the phone.
Get Kurt Russell here now. Should we make this a movie?
Sheriff Buster, just on the side story that's still happening, he buys all of Paul Sheldon's books and starts reading through them to try and figure out.
He's full on old school detective, isn't he?
He's brilliant, isn't he? He's so good.
I'd never get through all the books. They'd be like, "No, he's dead." I read them all, fell asleep, made no notes, useless.
Paul and Annie sit down for their romantic dinner that evening. And again, it's such a tragic comedy. He's really playing her. And she's she is genuinely and almost in love with him, really. Or the idea of it.
Well, he's gently bringing her in, isn't he? Like a little fish.
Yeah. And he says to her, this
Big
looks
fish.
delicious. This looks delicious. So and then he says, "Oh, wait, can we have some candles? I feel like that would really make this really special." And she says, "Oh, of course." Of course, while she goes out to get her candles, he pulls his little pouch of powder from the tablets out.
And he spikes her drink.
Chucks the whole lot in her wine glass. Yeah.
But what
And
happens
his
when she
plan
comes
is
back?
knock her
though?
out.
Yeah, of course, and get away. How's he going to get away though once he's knocked her out?
Dude, if she's knocked out, I'm out of that house and I'm dragging my ass through the snow until I don't know where I would go, but I'd find a way to get out of there.
You would make your legs drive, wouldn't you? Well, you
I'd
can't.
get-
You can't drive. You'd be stuck.
I would drive. I would get in that
You'd
car
learn
and
to
I'd
drive.
I'd learn to drive within seconds.
You'd be Johnny Number 5, short circuit. Input Stephanie.
Stephanie needs input.
No, Johnny Number 5 needed input. Yeah, let's carry on.
Yes, she burns herself a bit on the candle, knocks her entire wine glass over. It's almost like
It's
she
so
knew.
devastating.
Do
He's
you think
devastated.
do you
You're
think she
devastated.
knew? Do you think she did it on purpose?
No.
No. His face is the definition
Genuine
of disappointment.
devastation. Yeah.
It's just. I've worked for like a week to get this powder out of these tablets.
Yes.
I finished the whole book.
He's got to just do it again.
Got to start again now.
He carries on writing the book. No.
He writes the book.
Yeah.
He starts working out. He starts working out like a prison scene now. He's using the typewriter to do weights, and he's sort of getting in shape. I really wanted like with the burning heart playing over the top of it, like something from Rocky or something playing over the top of that scene. He's doing.
Yeah, I like it though. It's raining outside. She comes in now to express to him that when it rains, she's depressed. I love the fact at this point here, she also says to him, "I love you," then shows him her gun. You don't want your number one fan telling you, "I love you. Here's my gun."
Well, it's a really dark scene actually, because so far we are laughing at her because she's either really bubbly and over the top innocent, or she's really scarily psychotic. But in this scene, she just comes in completely middle, dark, like downbeat, like you said. When it rains, I get
Bipolar-ish,
really
isn't she?
depressed. She really is. Paul gets the kitchen knife, so he goes out and about again. And he gets
She
the
says,
kitchen
"Here's
knife.
my gun. Sometimes I use it. Tonight I'll put bullets in it." What? Why? Why do you have to tell me this when I'm tied up in a bed and I can't go anywhere and you're my number one fan? Why do you have to tell me about your gun and that you love me, please?
It's almost like it's not her that's come in the room at this point. It's almost
It's like that movie Split, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's coming in to reveal something. It's very strange. Well, she goes out again, and
She should have got with like Ed Gein. Her and Ed Gein have been fucking like brilliant together.
I think Ed Gein would have been fucked.
Definitely, if she is on top of him.
She goes out again, and Paul goes for another little wander, and he gets a knife this time. He also finds a scrapbook of clippings, and this reveals her backstory.
This is what you need. You now need to find what would be the next thing to find with your fan who's got a gun and it says he loves you. A scrapbook, yay!
Which shows that she has been almost close to being imprisoned for lots and lots of murders of babies.
Yeah, and people.
And also her husband died in mysterious circumstances, and also then she started cutting out things to do with Paul Sheldon disappearing.
Rightfully, he takes a knife with him.
Yep, definitely get that knife. Oh yeah, that's right. Everybody out in the real world thinks he's dead. He realizes that from the newspaper clippings, so he's like, they're not even really probably looking for me. This is crazy. What am I going to do? He practices with the knife in bed, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Pulling it out as quickly as he can to stab, and then he puts it back in. And it's like a cowboy practicing with his quick draw.
It's the training scene, isn't it?
This is what I'm saying. It's almost a comedy. It's almost a comedy, a very dark comedy.
But this is the third act, and we break. See my air quotations there. We break into the third act or the third ankle. How do we do this?
Yes, because at this point we're really upbeat because Paul's already done a really good plan, which didn't fall through. It fell over. It didn't work. But now he's got the knife. He's been practicing with the knife. We're like, yes, he's going to do this. He's going to do this. He goes off to sleep, wakes up in the night, And Annie... Oh, hang on. Is this the bit? Yes, he wakes up and Annie says, I know you've been out. And she talks about the penguin being in the wrong position.
Penguin's facing south.
She also says, don't worry about your knife. I've taken that from him. So while he's been asleep, she's taken the knife off of him.
Yeah.
She knows all about his plans.
Now, we're going to go into like some horror territory, which is really bad for me. Being a skateboarder who's had a left ankle busted multiple times, I can really feel the pain of it. And only last year I was going for the hospital to have work done on it. If you remember, I was having physio because my ankles are so bad. I know what the pain's like when you really have taken it there. This movie took me to that level mentally.
Well, just before she does what you're about to talk about, she also reveals not only has she taken the knife off him, but she found the little makeshift key that he made out of the hairpin, and she knows that he's looked at her scrapbook. So now she knows that he knows everything about her. So we know he's fucked at this point.
You could tell. You can say what happens, yeah.
He then notices there's a plank of wood between his feet, and she's holding a sledgehammer. And she tells this story about how they used to hobble slaves in the mines to stop them from escaping.
But you had to keep them being able to work. You just couldn't let them get away.
And he says, Annie, come on, please. No, Annie. And he's pleading. And he's pleading with her.
Man, this is such a simple effect.
It's a really great effect.
It's so
just a pathetic
easy.
Leg.
Yeah, and his leg's bent and it was going down through the bed. It's so simple.
What works is the very quick cut. So she obviously smashes his foot with the sledgehammer, which snaps the ankle. And what works is the very quick cut from that to his face screaming.
And that's when we look at his face
agony.
for when she does the right one, because you don't need to see it again.
Yeah, and then she comes up to do the right one, and then he's pleading even more. Please, 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 please. And then it's just his face when she breaks the other one. Now in the book...
Man, that's horrible.
In the book, I cannot remember if she cut off both feet, but she definitely cut off at least one of the feet in the book. And they didn't want to go that full route for this. And I think it actually works. It works in this, because I think that would have been a bit too... So far, the film's been quite light.
I think that's going into sort of your Ravenous sort of area or something. It's going a bit too far. I think breaking the ankle is the perfect psychotic, horrific thing that could happen. It's plausible as well.
Oh, fucking hell. Well, she heals him up. Basically...
that sound though, the sound of it. Yep.
She basically has rebroken his legs almost so that she can start the process again of him healing again, which means he's trapped again for however many weeks this is going to take.
Ankles. Yeah, he's fucked. He wouldn't even be able to drive the car.
Now Buster pulls up to the house.
Yeah, this is the sheriff, and this is basically a reference to The Shining again. This is when you get old Scatman comes back to the hotel. It's exactly the same.
Yes, it is. Because she injects James Caan, Paul Sheldon, so that he's a bit more docile and he can't really call out for help.
Well, actually, before this happens, Annie goes to town. She drugs him, and Annie goes to town and gets road rage, which the sheriff sees from his window looking out, and he notices her get road rage, and he's like, that's interesting, because she's in my zeitgeist at the moment. I'm looking into her. And he then goes into the local convenience store there and says, the haberdashery, and says, like, has she been buying anything different? He said, no, nothing really. Oh, just writing paper. He's like, writing paper? And she goes, has she done something wrong? He's like, no, she's fine.
He's such a cool old school sheriff.
And he goes up there, and that's why it's so disappointing. Like when Scatman gets to the hotel, the Overlook, and dies, it's so disappointing when we have this same fate happen.
Well, he talks to Annie on her doorstep, first of all, and she says, yes, I'm his number one fan. I know all about him. And he starts sort of, while he's chatting to her, he's wandering around the house.
Oh, very much the other detective bit, very back, quickly getting back to our amazing sheriff. He remembers a line from the book, because he notices that she... Do you remember? He looks into her a little bit more and sees that she had a thing going on, and she stood outside the courts and said this line, and it's underneath the picture, and it's in the book,
right.
And that's what makes him go, that's it, she's got him.
It's a bit of a long shot.
It is, but it is like very much a lot of coincidences coming back to this one person.
But it ties into it nicely.
Definitely. And if you're a detective, you've got to check this shit out. Go on your hunch.
Paul is knocked out pretty much, half asleep in the basement, while the Buster is looking around the house, and as he leaves, Paul knocks over the barbecue from earlier, and the sheriff hears the clattering, and he comes back, and Annie just fucking blasts him with the shotgun, like, boom, he is dead.
Yep.
And she then says to Paul, I've got a couple of bullets. I'm going to kill us both with these bullets. Don't worry about it. We'll have a bullet each. It'll be very romantic.
Definitely.
It's just gone from bad to worse, really, hasn't it? He says to her, all right, well, I can finish the book by dawn. Just give me till dawn, then we can die. So, he's still trying to play her. He's still pulling at the strings that he knows work. And he says, but there's 3 things I need. And she says, I know. Dom Perignon, a match, and a cigarette. He's like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly what we need. But then he burns the book in front of her, doesn't he, when she brings it into him?
He switches it, which drives her absolutely insane.
It's brilliant. And it turns into this.
How does he do this with broken ankles?
I don't know.
He should be in absolute fucking agony.
He smacks her in the head with a typewriter.
Is he standing up when he does this? No, he's not, is he?
No, he's in the chair.
The whole thing must be, okay.
She calls him a cocksucker, which I love because she doesn't
First
really
time
like
she swore.
swearing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that explains how enraged she is right now.
She's actually swearing. He gouges her eyes. She shoots him in the shoulder. They wrestle a bit more. He smashes her head into the ground. And then he shoves the burnt pages of the book into her mouth and says, eat it. He's just lost it now. He's just shoving the burnt book into her mouth. Eat it.
Oh yeah, he's had enough.
She's still alive though, and she's still trying to fight him. He ends up picking up the big heavy metal pig-shaped doorstop, and just pow into her head. She is definitely dead now. Done. And that's her done.
She does have a one last get up though, doesn't she? Classic 90s get up.
Well, that was it. He smashed her with the pig. And that's it. And then 18 months later,
his book's a success. What's it about? What happened?
I don't think we get to find that out. But his publicist says, it's done really well. We're really pleased for you. And he says, well, the whole experience really helped me. And he I think he's incorporated his experience into the book. Maybe like Stephen King.
It's a bit meta for Stephen King, isn't it, this book?
It is. And then he says, but I still always remember that experience. And as he says that, he looks round and the
waitress changes face, and it's Annie Wilkes coming up to
what a great little... I actually believed that she was still alive the first time I saw this. I thought...
Oh, yeah, okay. That's because you're younger and naive.
Yeah. And then it's just a pretty young waitress who says, oh, Mr. Sheldon, I'm your number 1 fan.
He goes, well, thanks. I hear that a lot. It's a lovely bookender.
It's almost like an episode of Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah.
Directed by...
Tying it up nicely.
Yeah, it's got that Murder, She Wrote cute, nice, cozy feel to it, but done with a very warped sense of,
Sarah has a
violence.
friend who has a Murder, She Wrote board game, and I can't wait to play it at some point.
Dude, I love Murder, She Wrote. It's so good.
That's what I was like today, type of working on a script. I was definitely...
I love Jessica Fletcher. Angela Lansbury.
That's it. I said Jessica Lansbury. I'm getting it all wrong.
You said that before.
Well, I give that
Misery.
movie a thumbs up. It's an extraordinary good movie.
It's really good, isn't it? Really, really good movie. And I obviously give it a huge thumbs up as well. And anybody who hasn't seen it, you really should check it out. If you love Stephen King, you love horror, or if you love thrillers, or movies about isolation or snowy stuff, it's got really everything in it.
It's the perfect film right now. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's honestly, check it out. It's an amazing film, and it's why I wanted to watch it along with Stand By Me. So thank you for watching those with me, Gab, because they're both fantastic movies.
Yeah, good choices.
Good one, man. All right, well, that's that. Let's see if Mr. Murray has anything to say, shall we?
Bill?
William?
Bill?
Beckman?
Hi, welcome back to World of the Strange.
Thank you, Mr. William Murray.
Strange world, Kevin. It's a strange birthday world.
World of the strange.
Strange world.
Strange world.
So, we've got a couple of little stories to talk about in this World of the Strange.
Okay.
The first one is inspired by the movie we've just covered.
I was wondering
Misery.
if we're going to have any related weirdness.
Well, this one is related to Misery because the nurse, Annie Wilkes, is actually inspired. Stephen King was inspired by a real life story. Obviously, he put his Stephen King touch on the story to turn it into this whole other thing. But there is a nurse that is famous from the late 70s to early 80s for doing some stuff, which we're going to talk about now.
Okay, what sort of stuff?
Stuff, I'll go through it. Her name is Janine Jones.
Right.
And as I've said, she's reportedly the inspiration behind Annie Wilkes. Although she didn't tie up an author and smash his ankles or cut them off like she did in the book, she still did some pretty gnarly stuff. So I'm going to run through what she did now.
What era was this? What years?
This was 78 to 82.
And where?
In America, I believe.
Thank you.
Let me double check that. It may have been France. No, Texas. It was Texas. So, she was found guilty of purposefully injecting babies with lethal doses of drugs to induce medical emergencies. Then she could gain praise by being the hero that tried to save that child. So she'd basically put the child into a state of pretty much death so that she could then be the one that was like, oh my god, they're dying, let me try and save them, and become famous through it.
Right, okay, so a diabolical mastermind.
She was basically only convicted of one murder. She was put away, and they can only convict her of one murder. But they estimate that she's responsible for somewhere between 11 and 46 instant deaths between 1978 and 1982.
Jesus Christ.
So she was going around. It's a bit like the Harold Shipman.
I was going to say Dr. Death. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit like that. So she was going around trying to become this famous super nurse by injecting kids with lethal, whatever, and trying to save them. And one of them died, and perhaps up to 46 of them died. We'll never know, unfortunately. But she is, as I've said, the inspiration. Stephen King must have read about that, apparently, and was inspired. She did get put away. They knocked 35 years off her sentence for good behaviour. I believe they originally gave her 99 years, and then they reduced that down, and eventually they knocked another 35 years off for good release. She was penciled in for a 2018 release, but has as of yet not been released from prison.
Right.
The victim's parents are very, very upset. They say that we don't want a serial killer walking around the United States of America or anywhere. And that's kind of the story, really. It's not really much more than that. I just thought it was an interesting one for World of the Strange. Because Stephen King's mind is so full of horror and craziness.
Well, he's experienced a lot of it as well, especially when he had that accident, and then he used that to make Animal Kingdom Hospital, something or other.
Well, also he did an awful lot of cocaine.
He did do that as well. That was his own doing, though.
But we've all seen that film.
I thought you said we've all been there.
No. We've all seen that film, Maximum Overdrive. That is literally, if you've never done cocaine, just watch Maximum Overdrive. It feels like you're on cocaine.
It's pretty much the closest thing to it,
yeah. So there we go. But for her to inspire him, and him to turn that into, because as we talked about during the review, obviously Misery is about his addiction and how he felt tied to his typewriter. So he just tied that all in with this crazy created Misery. So there we go. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was. I thought you were going to come at me with some sort of story of someone tying someone up and doing something, cutting their legs off or some shit.
Well, I can try and find some of that for next time if you want.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll send you some videos.
No, don't do that. Just because I like horror movies doesn't mean I actually like horror.
We talked about this before, didn't we?
Yeah. It's just so annoying when people assume that.
The other little story I wanted to talk about was something that you shared in the group, and actually a few people have been sharing recently, which is that the Pentagon have declassified 3 videos taken by Navy pilots that apparently show UFOs zipping around. One of them was filmed in 2004, and the other 2 were taken in 2015. And these videos are quite something to watch, Gav, aren't they?
One of the pilots was actually on a Joe Rogan episode from about 3 months ago. It's really interesting, listen, because he's like saying, like, you know, I can now say about this stuff, and he has always been saying it and stuff, and saying like this was legit. We were sent out just as a normal mission. He says, I'm not one of these people that like UFOs and all sort of stuff. We were sent out on a normal mission. We go down to check out stuff out, because we do that. We fly out to check stuff out, and there's something over the ocean. We have to go look at it, see if it's safe or not. So we fly out there, me and another convoy, and we go down there, and as we get there we see this thing, and it's hovering exactly where it should be and all sorts of stuff. And then all of a sudden they're just saying it would just move like really quickly, and they're like, there's no way it can do that. It's not physically possible. We don't have the technology for that rapid movement in different ways. And then they followed it for a long time, and they shot off, and you can see the footage of it, and it's legit. And that is an unidentified flying object, and it's an object they cannot identify. It is a UFO.
You know, we're not saying it's a UFO. We're not saying it's a spaceship, but it is definitely a UFO, as you say, Gavin, an unidentified flying object. And all these 3 videos, you can hear, like, what is genuine. You can hear that the reaction by the pilots.
The years apart is what's interesting. Obviously, like the first one's in, like, what was the first one? 92.
2004.
No, there's another one as well, isn't there?
Oh, okay. The 3 videos that have been declassified are from 2004, and then the other 2 are from 2015. There are other
2004.
videos.
Okay, fine. But it's interesting, like that technology is there then it's later on. Whatever this is, it is a craft. It is doing something.
Like I say, you can tell from the pilot's reactions, because they're sort of like, oh, look at this sucker, look at the speed on this sucker, and they're sort of like trying to keep up with it, and the way it moves. And it's just very strange, isn't it?
What's the pilot? Is it a Captain David someone, maybe?
I'll see if I've got that.
Because I definitely recommend rooting out and finding this Joe Rogan podcast episode. Captain, I don't know what his name is. I can't remember.
There's Senator Harry Reid, but...
no, it's the pilot.
What I will do, guys, is after the episode drops, I will share the news story, which has the videos in it, so you guys can all watch it unless you've already seen it.
It's really interesting.
Shared it. I had to watch it because I love that kind of shit.
Well, it's only right now that they drop this, and you just in this day and age, you just don't actually, nobody really stirs, because of we're in a worldwide lockdown pandemic, and the whole world's so full of stuff which it could be fakes and made on your iPhone. People just don't anymore. It's just like, it's just stuff, and it's like, yeah, but this is legit. But it's like, this is Pentagon. Stuff. It's more visuals we're looking at.
The Pentagon have released these 3 videos. Now, the Pentagon aren't going to fuck around with special effects and try and make. They're just going to drop these videos and go, this is something that happened. We can't explain.
And I'm not saying that they do, but I'm just saying we live in a world of that, and anyone can do it.
Of course.
But they're saying, yeah, this is legit. We have UFOs that fly around.
What do you think they are, then, Gav? As this is World of the Strange, we haven't had one really where we can say are they real or they not.
What are we going into the question? Do I believe in UFOs?
Well, first of all, do you believe these videos are real?
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, what do you think they are? And that ties in with, do you believe in UFOs, depending on your answer?
I can't tell you what I think they are, because I don't know. The only assumption I can come to are aliens in a spacecraft. What else could I think they are?
They're definitely a craft or an object that is aware of...
It's a craft which has been built.
It knows that it's being followed and it's being looked at, because it tries to evade...
Indeed.
The Air Force pilot.
It's definitely a built thing, and it has possibly fuel which is unlimited for a long time, or solar panelled, but you can't really see any solar panels, like there's nothing reflecting off it unless they've got some other form of doing that where you can't see that. But there's some power seen, but it's not very, I don't think it's a very large object, but so it can't contain lots of fuel, so it's not burning fuel like that. There's no fumes coming from it.
Well, what blows my mind is that a plane or any sort of craft that we use it generally propels forward because it's got something at the back propelling it forward.
Yeah.
But this seems to be able to move in any direction.
Yes.
Quicker than anything we've ever seen.
Yes, and that's what stunned them a little bit. And like, this is something we do
like
not have the technology for.
Well, it's defying gravity, isn't it, basically?
Yeah.
You know, it's got some technology that can bend gravity or I don't know what, but yeah, it's really interesting stuff and it's quite exciting. But like you're saying, Gav, because of everything that's happening right now,
we just don't know. Yeah.
Everyone's just like,
I'm happy to talk about it though. But what else? Let's break it down. We're still going for it. I'm quite enjoying that. Like, what could it possibly be then?
I mean, the only other explanation that
is it something from another planet that's come here and is having a look? And how did they get past everything? Like, come down through the solar? Did they just appear? Is there science? Are we going into time zone? Travel?
What I was going to say was my only other explanation, other than it's alien visitors.
I'm going to say time travel could be plain.
Well, I would say the only other thing I can think of is it's another country that's got this technology, and
we're living in that world now. I don't think anyone can be kept that secret too much. Obviously, a lot of things can.
They say we're always about 10 years behind knowing exactly what technology is available. They don't want to freak us out by giving us all the things that we.
But we're saying that this technology was available years ago then.
Well, one of them was 2015, so it's 5 years ago.
And
so what if China or even another lab in America or somewhere?
So you're saying it's man-made?
Yeah, I'm saying it could be man-made potentially.
Human-made, so we're not sexist in any way. Okay, so it's built.
Tony Stark. It could be Tony Stark could have built something.
But what do you say about that? How's it energized? How's it move? What's the fuel?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's clearly not running on any petrol, jet fuel,
or anything which is going to burn up and have to release a fume of any kind, unless it's.
Well, it's got no rotors, it's got no jets. It's just hovering, completely dead still, and then it can move quicker than a flash, left, right, up, down. It can just.
And surely, if someone had that technology years ago and still got it, and now the Pentagon said we've got it, surely at some point they're like, we may as well use this technology. Why are we just sitting here not using this technology? And what do we use this technology for?
It blows. I'm genuinely speechless. I don't have an explanation.
And you can't put. It looks kind of smallish. You can't put a load of weapons on it. Would you? You can't. It might be too much to put a bomb on it and fly it along. What do we use it for? It must be for observation.
Is it a drone? Is it a really high-tech drone? It has
to be a drone, which is very possibly lightweight, because then that's going to help not so much fuel consumption.
Is it a drone from another planet that's been sent here?
I would say it's an observational drone. Yeah, I'd have thought so.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in it.
And it's trying to get away once it realises, like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's basically it's built into it. As soon as it's spotted, and somehow it knows.
And how many have been out there already which haven't been spotted? They were just the ones that were spotted.
Scary stuff.
So I reckon.
But not scary stuff.
Not really. If we went to another planet and found something, they'd be like, "Who the fuck are you?" Oh, we're from this other planet. What?
I know it's been said a million times, but we are very, very naive and stupid to think that we are the only.
God. We are such a minuscule thing in the world.
We're nothing. We are literally nothing.
We create the world and the life that we live in ourselves. Our destiny, whatever we choose, our paths is our destiny. We choose where we want to go and what we want to do most of the majority of the time. Unfortunately, some people are stuck in situations. But we create this world. But we are nothing. We are nothing compared to the universe.
No.
Nothing.
And there's definitely other stuff going on out there.
Oh God, there has to be. We're just lucky that we've evolved so fast.
Have you ever?
I enjoyed watching Prometheus last night.
Alien? Sorry.
I knew you had to go there. Have I been probed by aliens? But you remember, not that long ago, I thought I was being probed by aliens.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, not anymore. I watched Prometheus last night. Really enjoyed Prometheus.
Good movie. Good movie. I do love a good alien movie.
And
There was something.
just the theories involved in that, though.
I love it with the gods.
Yeah,
the
so cool. So cool.
Well, that relates back to a lot of the stuff with Egypt and even that movie, Stargate, and even Aliens. Predator and some of those movies that talk.
Yeah. And Predator.
And help to an extent. And I do. There's an element of that I do believe.
You
really
just
do.
literally sounded like an alien when you spoke then.
Oh, sorry. What bit didn't you hear?
You said movie titles, Aliens, Predators, something or other.
Alien vs Predator, Stargate, and a bunch of other movies where they talk about how aliens potentially created our civilizations, or even just created mankind.
Indeed.
And I've always been fascinated, and I probably talked about this in previous episodes. I've always been fascinated with the fact that ancient civilizations had very similar types of beliefs and some technologies. So you're looking at people in South America, in the Aztecs, who had pyramids, but there were also pyramids in Egypt, and there were pyramids in Japan, and all these very far away places still somehow came up with these very similar infrastructures and ways of life. They talk about you can even break it down to things like folk tales, like why does every country have its own version of a vampire or a werewolf?
Indeed.
Or, there's a reason that for me that we're all linked, and I think it's much deeper and much more ancient than we'll probably even ever know. Probably going a bit deep now, but I do think that there is a lot more to this planet than this planet, and I think this planet is tied into other things in a much deeper way. There we go.
World of the Strange. So that's good. It's nice to talk UFOs. You haven't got into that before, so that's good.
Well, I'm 42 now. It's my birthday. I'm 42, and it's time to start.
Young whippersnapper, you are.
Ooh, young man. I don't know what that was.
No.
Oh, well, I think we should get out of here.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Anyway, at the end of that, the conclusion is that we believe in aliens.
We do believe in aliens. We also believed in hairless pets and shaved pussies, don't we, Bill?
Bill?
That's all the time we've got for this week on World of Strange. Next week, though, give me Ira. Hairless pets. Weird.
We are back again, ladies and gentlemen, guys and ghouls. Ooh.
That was episode 88, and that was my birthday.
It's your birthday. Well, it was.
Great couple of films there.
Yeah, it's really nice to talk about Stand By Me, because it's not a horror movie.
No, it's not really, is it? But,
it's obviously got the Stephen King seal of approval, but not really a horror movie at all. But it's nice to sometimes go that place. We went that place recently, but we did talk about a horror movie, didn't we? We had a lovely talk about werewolves.
We did. We had the honour to appear on another show. So we guested on a show called Lichen It. That's lichen as in lycanthropy. For anyone who's not checked it out, as you can probably gather from the title, it's a werewolf specific show.
I love it's like 9 or 10 episodes in. It started at like 2013 or something.
It's so good.
Slower than us.
It's hosted by fellow Legionnaires Jamie and Brian Sammons, and we're very excited to be asked to go on it.
I think it's actually on the Horrorphilia network. I don't think it's on Legion.
Jamie has a few shows on Legion, right?
But she does. She is. Yes, she is all over the audio.
She's got a lot
waves.
of podcasts under her belt. Yes, we will post up links to it when that show drops. But yeah, it's an episode where we talked about Bad Moon, 90s werewolf movie, which was great fun. Great fun to host, to be on somebody else's show, and for us to sit back and let a show be hosted.
Oh, it was really nice, wasn't it? It was relaxing. It's like putting your slippers on, putting your legs up.
And it was really fun, and we said to
I didn't have to record or anything. I didn't even have to look into a microphone. I could just be chilling in. So yeah, sorry.
Well, we said to the guys, it was just, we were thankful to them, firstly for letting us appear on the show, but also for letting us just not think about all this shit that's going on at the moment. It was just such a nice break, really. And that was fun, really good fun, really funny episode.
I don't know when that'll drop. I'm
not sure. We will definitely spread that around, like wildfire, like the coronavirus. when that drops. But yeah, so thanks again to Jamie and Brian for having us on that show, and we're really excited for you guys to hear that as well. We'll definitely share that around. We have some questions, Gav. Some of our listeners.
I did throw it out every once in a while. We will do it, and I did throw out as like on Facebook, like, oh, dudes, in 30 minutes we're going to do the show. Anything, let us know. So you only got 30 minutes to let us know. So what came in?
So we've got some questions. So shall I run through them?
Yeah, go from the top to the bottom.
Fantastic. Okay, so first question is from RJ McCready, fellow podcaster, friend, listener, and general all-round hero and legend. So RJ has
Treasure
two
hunter.
questions. He is, real life.
Venturer.
So he has two questions, Gav. First one is for you. He says, Gav, Doc Brown takes you back in time in a DeLorean and says you can direct any movie you want. What film in movie history would you like to have been involved with? Oh, he's thinking. The cogs are turning.
If we went on to the other question, would that be enough time for me to think? I don't want to sit here not speaking and just going blank airwaves.
Yeah, that's fine. His other question is for me, and he asks, Dan, who is your favourite horror villain?
Ghostbusters.
You'd like to... That's you, is it?
I'd like to direct Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Imagine that.
Yeah.
It's one of the most quotable movies, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good answer. Well, my question is, Dan, who's your favourite horror villain? Now, that is quite hard to think about. So what I've decided to do is I've gone for human villains rather than monsters or people like Jason, etc. So for me...
What's the question? I was thinking about Ghostbusters still.
It says, Dan, who is your favourite horror villain? So for me, I think if you're talking about human villains in a horror movie, I haven't had a lot of time to think about this, but I would say probably either Annie Wilkes, who we've talked about on this episode as a human character, or Dr. Hannibal Lecter, because he is just terrifying.
I was just about to say Hannibal Lecter.
He is just a fantastic human, very real villain who's a cannibal but clever as well. Actually, yeah, I'm going to go Hannibal Lecter is going to be my favourite horror villain as a human.
And that's mine.
There we go, Gav. Nice one.
That's easy.
Well, the next question is for both of us. Rachel Dedman asks a question. If you could be murdered in the style of a horror, which death would you choose? So a horror film, I guess.
A horror film death which has already been done?
Yeah, I guess.
Why is it the first thing I think of was Cannibal Apocalypse or Holocaust with the impaling? Why am I thinking that? I don't want that at all.
So you want a stick?
No, but that's the first one I thought of.
You want a stick shoved up your arse
and
out your mouth?
No. Let me think some more. You talk.
Well, let's take your first answer, I'm afraid.
No, you talk. Let me think.
Well, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking there's many ways to die, and some of them aren't really they're all very painful, really, because it's a horror movie. But I think for me, if I was going to pick one, I would be killed in Hellraiser style, because apparently you experience quite a lot of pleasure as you die in Hellraiser. So I think rip me apart with chains and hooks and let me experience what it feels like to feel that immense pleasure and pain at the same time.
I'm not really thinking about the pain factor on my choice here, but I'm going with Kevin Bacon in the first Friday the 13th movie.
So you want to be just had sex and then someone shoves a spike through your throat?
Oh yeah, it's just after, isn't it? That's not good enough. I thought it was at the same time. It's not, is it?
There is a
one,
shish
isn't there?
kebab in one of the Fridays where someone gets shish kebabbed. What about in Bad Moon, where the girl's on top of him, and while they're in the middle of sex, the werewolf rips her off of him?
Yeah, we could go with that one.
So basically, you want sex in your death.
Yeah, that's where we're getting at, really, isn't it?
There we go, Rachel. As long as he's having sex, he doesn't really care how he dies.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Well, thanks for that. We do have one more question from Kate Pollock, who came on the show a few episodes back. So here we go. Her question, it's a multi-choice question. Okay. So she says, with everything being batshit right now, which apocalyptic movie scenario out of these three would you prefer this to play out as? Ready?
Mm-hmm.
So, scenario 1. World War III occurs and Trump's America wins, leading to a worldwide dictatorship and even bigger class divides, and everyone having to fight to survive like the Hunger Games or V for Vendetta. Upside down, a symbol, a mascot for good, rises, and we rebel and ultimately strive towards a brighter, more equal future.
Blimey.
That's
Okay.
one.
Right, well, I can't wait to see what number 2 is.
2 is the climate change crisis builds and the ozone layer is destroyed, leaving us hiding from the sun's rays, and all of the Earth's nutrients and resources dry up like the Book of Eli or Mad Max. The upside to this would be Mila Kunis and Tom Hardy meet, creating the most amazing offspring, who's essentially our saviour and reverses global warming by smiling. I quite like that one.
Well, there's an end game out of that, but it's a bit of a horrible journey. At least with the first one, you can run and hide and hustle a bit, but then it does become dog eat dog, doesn't it? The other one has a happy ending, so I suppose if you can sustain the badness of the no crops and stuff, then the happy ending.
Okay, well, she has a third option, which is
I can't wait to see what this is.
COVID-19 is not contained and everyone perishes, aside from a small percentage who are immune, like The Stand. The upside to this one is the children are our future and the world is saved. Mother Abigail lives and she and Stephen King tell stories of old together for everyone.
So this is a bit like that Clive Owen movie, Children of Men, isn't it?
I suppose there's a bit of that in there as well.
You're playing a gamble though, aren't you? You're playing a am I immune, am I not card. So that's a 50-50 on that.
What
there is a good ending.
Number 1, seems less death in number 1.
The world isn't destroyed of all its crops and stuff.
America take over the entire world under Trump's dictatorship, but then we uprise and it's fine. I really like, though, for me, I'm going to go, the masochist in me wants number 2, which is climate change crisis builds, ozone layer destroyed, all the sun's rays, nutrients, resources dry up, and then Tom Hardy and Mila Kunis create a ultimate god baby that's so beautiful that it saves the world. What would you pick, though? I'm going to go
with number 3.
Number 3, COVID-19 is not contained. Everyone perishes apart from a small percentage who are immune, but the upside to this one is the children are our future and the world is saved. So you like that?
Yeah, because we're starting fresh again, and
Stephen King lives on in this one as well. He lives in hotels.
And all of the crops and stuff haven't been destroyed.
She also says, "Happy birthday, Dan. When this is all over, there's some nice wine and cake to be had. So I'll be taking you up on that cake. Thank you very much." Well, there we go. That was fun, wasn't it? We've experienced death, apocalypse, movie villains, time travel. Bloody hell. Our
Done
listeners.
everything today, haven't we? Thanks for the questions, guys.
Brilliant. Well, that was episode 88. Should we talk about what's coming up next?
Yeah, you got to do the next 3 episodes, haven't you?
So episode 89 is our belated Easter episode. So we will be covering the final Alien movie in the franchise that we've been covering for a long time.
Yes.
So far. And that is Alien Covenant. So that'll be fun to revisit that, because I've not seen that really, probably since it came in the cinema, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. It's been a while. We're also tying that in with a movie which incorporates something that happens in the month of March, which is normally when Easter occurs, and that is St. Patrick's Day. And yes, we will be covering Leprechaun, the very first Leprechaun movie with Jennifer Aniston. So Alien Covenant and Leprechaun will be episode 89, Gav.
The Leprechaun movies, that's just basically us going to be taking a piss. I love the fact that at some stage we're going to be discussing a movie about Warwick Davis filming a movie in a suit as a leprechaun in the hood in LA.
Leprechaun in
We're
the
actually
hood.
going to discuss that film.
Let's not forget there's Leprechaun in space as well.
I've not. Do you know what though? I don't even think I've ever seen Leprechaun.
The first one?
I've not seen any of them. No.
Wow, you were in for a treat. You were in for a treat. Well, that's episode 89.
You think I'm in for a treat? I think you might be wrong. But okay.
He he kills people and then does a little rhyme about it normally afterwards.
Don't spoil it.
Okay. Episode 90. We are going to be covering 28 days later and 28 weeks later. We put off doing this one just while the pandemic was happening, but we are going to cover it because it is kind of relevant, and we don't feel it's too disrespectful as we are coming over the peak of the pandemic. So we are going to be chatting about.
Well, not for everybody.
Not for everybody, but well, no, for most people. I mean, it's worldwide now. The peak is.
Yeah, hopefully. But
we hope. We can't predict the future.
But I think it'd be good to talk about. I think World of Strange would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, we can talk about things like that. But also, those are awesome movies, especially the first one. So it'd be really
those
good.
Films are fucking banging.
Game changer in a lot of ways for horror.
It's be fucking well good to watch those again.
Changed zombies, that kind of stuff. Talk about all of that. Episode 91 is going to be a fun one because we get to chat about a couple of fun anthologies. That's Creepshow 1 and Creepshow 2.
Yeah.
I may even rewatch 3.
Well,
just
and
so I could
there's a TV show out as well, so we need to sort of at least discuss them.
Yeah, I've not seen any of it. I've heard it's hit and miss, the TV show.
Well, let's check them out as well. And that means we're in the 90s. We're on the road to 100.
We are. So that's our next 3 episodes, and that is going to be a lot of fun.
Episode 100, we're going to have to plan these next episodes out because episode 100 is going to have to be something special.
Well, we did something special for episode 50, didn't we?
Should we have some guests?
We could potentially have some guests, yeah.
We could compile a show of guests.
We could certainly do that, and we could also ask for lots and lots of questions. We could literally answer any question that you want to put to us. We'll answer that as well. Because you put up with us, by then you would have put up with us for 100 episodes. So why not let us just spill our guts to you? Anything you want to know, we'll tell you.
And we should probably you choose a film, a favourite, and I choose a favourite.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's 100.
Do you remember what we did for episode 50?
No.
We did The Predator. Well, not The Predator. We did Predator. And we did a competition, didn't we, where we had people do Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions as well. So we'll have to look at something fun to do to celebrate hitting 100 when we get there.
Or maybe we need to do another Schwarzenegger film.
Maybe. Which one would we do? Terminator 2?
I don't know, because let's not sway it. You just bring a movie to the table, not bring a movie.
Okay, we'll do that. There's your next 3 episodes. There we go.
But it's got to be like a proper big hitter movie.
Oh, it's got to be a big one.
It doesn't have to be horror.
It could be anything.
Yeah, I think you could sway. But it is our 100th horror episode, so I don't know. It should really be horror, but we've got a while. It's
our show. We do what we want.
We've got probably 6 months or so. Probably. Yeah.
Well, a bit of admin before we go. So, as always, we are a proud member of Legion Network. You can find us on legionnetwork.com. Legion, I do apologise. legionpodcast.com, sorry. And we are very active on our Facebook page, the Podcast on Haunted Hill. You can also find us on the Legion Facebook page, which is where you can also find out loads of other shows and podcasts. We've mentioned some of those in this show tonight. We're available in other places such as podknife.com, Podbean, the app, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict app. We're on Twitter at Haunted Podcasts. We're also on YouTube now, which is incredibly exciting. Spotify. I don't know why I get so excited when I pop up on YouTube, but it just really makes me excited. We're on Spotify as well, and we're on Patreon. And as always, we want to thank our 2 patrons, RJ McCready and Lem Yao, for their support. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much.
And to anybody else that wants to support us, even if you just want to donate something like £1 a month, anything you can will really, really help us keep the show going. We'll do it regardless, but any money that comes in helps us to buy equipment and just keep things moving along really a little bit smoother. But that's enough of that, because we don't like asking for money.
And I always say about the t-shirt thing, we will do that. But
yeah, we'll do another run of t-shirts.
Yeah,
we'll do another run of t-shirts for sure. Might even do some mugs.
I'd send you t-shirts and mugs.
Ooh, they could be well, we'll talk about that off air. But there we go, Gav. So it is a good night from oink, 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 wee, 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 piggy.
Did you have a good birthday episode?
I had a really good birthday episode. I had a few beers. I talked to my very good friend Gav about some very, very good movies directed by Rob Reiner and written by Stephen King.
Indeed.
And we went back in time. We talked about the real life Annie Wilkes. We also talked about UFOs. And I feel like that's a subject you're very excited about, so I might have to look into getting one of our upcoming episodes to be about aliens and UFOs.
If we could do an alien episode, I'd really be into that.
Yeah, I don't want to watch that goddamn movie though, where they get probed in a really terrible way.
Extraterrestrial.
Fucking hell, that freaked me out for days. That's the worst thing I've ever seen. It's full on. It's like a drill going up there.
It's annoying, that film. I like that film, except none of the cast are likeable or like each other in it, really. Do you know what I mean?
I thought it was going to be a silly movie until the scene where he's in the ship.
And it's just full on.
And then they drill him right up the butt with a proby thing.
Proper, like, drill into his arsehole. And on that note, it's a good night from Alien Bumholes.
Fantastic. It's a good night from... This is Mystery, my little piggy.
It's a good night from Dime Store Robbers. What's he say?
Cheap Dime Store Hood. Yeah, it's definitely a good night from Kiefer Sutherland.
And it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from you.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe. Don't pick up them hitchhikers. I don't know why we didn't talk about any hitchhikers tonight, but just don't.
Don't pick up any crabs.
Or crack. Good night. Thank you for listening to the podcast on Haunted Hill. We will be back again real soon.